Chapter 86. Even though Miju's impression of these two righteous men had crumbled a little, he still gave them a hefty sum in the end. Notification: you have received 100 ordinary silver ingots. This item can only be used in the Three Kingdoms plane. It cannot be brought out of this world, nor can it be used to exchange for mana points. Currency of the Three Kingdoms plane: 1 gold ingot equals 10 silver ingots equals 10,000 copper coins. Bai Xiaowen sighed. Money was a problem for heroes. It was hard to do anything in the Three Kingdoms plane without money. Even if Miju's favorability decreased, he had to accept the money. As for bringing gold and silver from Earth to the spirit realm, it was impossible. Any non-spirit items could not be brought into the spirit realm, including clothes. For example, the last time Bai Xiaowen entered the spirit world to carry out a test mission, he did not bring his combat uniform, steel crossbow, and scimitar into the spirit world. When he first appeared, he was wearing tattered linen clothes, not equipment, that were commonly seen in the Aran plane. It was a friendly gift from the spirit world's rules. This time, Bai Xiaowen was also wearing the coarse linen clothes commonly seen in the Three Kingdoms plane. Its function was similar to the tattered linen clothes, only to cover his private parts. When Bai Xiaowen reached level 2 and wore the warlock's robe, the upper part of the coarse linen clothes was replaced. However, because he did not replace the lower part, the original coarse linen pants were still there. Making money was the first thing every awakened had to do after entering the spirit realm. It was hard to do anything without money. Fortunately, although Miju was a little suspicious, his favorability did not decrease. It seemed that the Mi family was rich and did not care about such a small amount of money. Miju was also quite generous. After thanking Miju, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi left the courtyard. Miju saw them off and sat calmly in the courtyard. It was not until 2 hours later that someone came to report. "My lord, after the brother and sister received the money, they wandered around the city and bought some things before leaving. These are the items he purchased. Please take a look, my lord." The person respectfully presented a list. The Mi family was one of the wealthiest families in Shuzhou City, so it was easy for them to track these two people down. In addition, Bai Xiaowen had no intention of guarding against being followed. Miju took the list and skimmed through it. "I got it. You can go now." Bai Xiaowen glanced at the Yellow Turban Army's campsite several miles away from the city when he slid down the gondola. There are so many people. Li Shi was a little scared. 1,000 people fill the city, 10,000 people fill the fields. "Today, I finally understood the meaning of these two words," Bai Xiaowen said. "But you don't have to be too afraid. The Yellow Turban Army claimed to have 100,000 soldiers, but I'm afraid less than 20,000 of them are real soldiers. The rest are just followers of the way of Taiping who were bewitched and driven away." Li Shi smiled bitterly. "How can I not be afraid? My last job advancement mission was in the Frank Plain with an ancient European background. In a war between city-states, the regular army was only about 100 men. Including the auxiliary soldiers and peasants who participated in the war, the total number was less than 1,000. Bai Xiaowen was worried, but he couldn't show it. He comforted Li Shi for a while before the gondola finally landed on the ground. The Yellow Turban Army's campsite several miles away noticed the commotion on the city wall and sent a team of Yellow Turban Army to investigate. However, the two of them had already jumped off the gondola and left along a secluded path. They entered the forest 2 miles away from the city. The Yellow Turban Army was an elite team. Under the leadership of a captain, they entered the forest and lined up in a row to search for the commotion. Bai Xiaowen used insight on the captain from afar, notifying him that 50 mana points had been deducted. Chen Heng, Elite, /Challenge Rating, Level 6, Frenzied, Fire Demon's Prayer, Race, Humanoid/Human, Class, Heavy Armored Swordsman, Level 3, Attributes, STR 18, DX 10, Constitution 15, Spirit 8, Skills, Stab, Shield Bash, Provoke. The elite captain named Chen Heng was wearing fine steel heavy armor. He had a long saber in his left hand and a heavy shield in his right. He looked quite ferocious. However, what caught Bai Xiaowen's attention the most was his status column. Frenzied status, target is protected by rune water. Target's sense of pain is greatly reduced. Target's sense of pain is greatly reduced. Target will not run away under any circumstances. Fire Fiend Prayer. Target is buffed by Fire Fiend spell. Each successful attack will inflict 1 to 3 additional fire damage. Ignore defense. I can't run. I have to get rid of the pursuers in this forest. Bai Xiaowen took a deep breath. He raised his hand and summoned all the skeleton soldiers and shadow assassins from the Black Soul Stone. Then, he spent 10 spirit points to summon the leader of the wolves, the Wrath Claw, for the first time in the spiritual realm. Accompanied by a long howl, the Wrath Claw's buffalo-sized body appeared in front of 2 yellow turban soldiers. It swung its claw at them. The claw tore a small part of one of the yellow turban soldier's body. It was an instant kill. Enemy attack. Elite Captain Chen Heng shouted angrily. He ordered the yellow turban soldiers to charge at the Wolf King. As for himself, he broke 2 short trees in a row and rushed in front of Rage Claw like a bull. Shield up. Block. The Wrath Claw was an agility-based beast. With Bai Xiaowen's buff, it had 17 strength. Chen Heng, on the other hand, was an agility-based beast with 18 strength. This time, he blocked the Wrath Claw's second attack with his shield and saved the other yellow turban soldier. I'll hold it off. Shoot this beast to death. Among the other yellow turban soldiers, 5 of them had bows and arrows. They knocked their arrows and shot at the Wrath Claw. The yellow turban soldiers who did not have bows and arrows raised their shields and charged at the Wrath Claw to help Captain Chen Heng. Chi-chi. A few arrows that seemed to carry flames hit the Wrath Claw. The Wrath Claw howled in pain. The increase in damage was obviously due to the Fire Demon's prayer buff. Fortunately, Bai Xiaowen was prepared for this. Rustling sounds could be heard as 4 skeleton soldiers appeared. Each of them surrounded a yellow turban army archer. As for the last archer, he left it to Li Shui. Li Shui drew his ceremonial rapier and dashed forward. The rapier stabbed the last archer like a venomous snake, leaving some blood on him and forcing him to retreat. As for Bai Xiaowen, he took out his Desert Eagle and shot at the yellow turban soldiers around the Wrath Claw. Bai Xiaowen ignored the heavily armored elite Captain Chen Heng. He planned to kill the small fries first before attacking the elite. Chapter 87. Wolf Pack Leader Wrath Claw's Howl has been activated. All allies within a 100-meter radius will have their attack power and attack speed increased by 20%. Lasts for 30 seconds. Accompanied by this spiritual realm prompt, Bai Xiaowen's eyes were suddenly covered with a layer of blood. He calmly held the gun, aimed, and then fired. Bang! A half-dead yellow turban army swordsman fell to the ground with blood spurting out from his forehead. After firing the shot, Bai Xiaowen activated rapid fire mode almost at the same time. The damage reduction had been compensated by the Howl's buff. On top of the 20% increase in attack speed, what did it mean to double it? The muzzle of the Desert Eagle spat out a large amount of sparks. It was almost as if the pistol had the effect of a submachine gun. In just 2 seconds, another yellow turban army swordsman was turned into a beehive. The shadow assassin appeared behind another yellow turban army swordsman and used stealth plus assassination. Double damage, vital strike, and bleeding effect. The yellow turban army swordsman's health bar was emptied. After Angry Claw used his howl skill, 3 of the yellow turban army's sword and shield soldiers were instantly killed. How could Chen Heng, an elite, stop the commander-tier Wrath Claw? Under Bai Xiaowen's control, the Wrath Claw ignored Chen Heng and went straight for a yellow turban army archer. Chen Heng tried to follow, but Bai Xiaowen took 2 steps to the side and blocked him. Get lost! Chen Heng slammed his iron shield and activated Shield Bash in an attempt to push Bai Xiaowen to the side. Bai Xiaowen abruptly raised his eyes and opened his mouth silently. Suddenly, Chen Heng felt as if he had heard a clap of thunder. His body froze, and he fell into a fierce state that lasted for 4 seconds. What did 4 seconds mean for the wolf pack leader Wrathclaw, which had 23 points of agility? It meant that it had to pounce 4 times and swing its claw 5 times. The 5 Yellow Turban Army archers were all dead. Of course, this was because they were being held back by the skeleton warriors and Li Shui. Their HP had already been reduced by half, and the Wolf King Wrathclaw was able to finish them off at the speed of the wind. If the 5 Yellow Turban Army archers were at full health, Angry Claw wouldn't have been able to kill them all without anyone holding them back. Damned beast! It was only after the 5 Yellow Turban Army archers had fallen that Chen Heng was finally freed from his fear status. He immediately used his provoke skill and forced the Wrathclaw to attack him. However, it was already too late. Chen Heng's Yellow Turban Army archers had all been wiped out. More than half of the Sword and Shield soldiers had died as well. It was impossible to rely on the remaining Sword and Shield soldiers. Moreover, Chen Heng and his remaining soldiers, who were in a frenzy, did not even consider escaping. Objectively speaking, this indeed saved Bai Xiaowen a lot of effort. In the end, Chen Heng fell dejectedly to the ground and was unable to get up again. Bai Xiaowen received a notification. Your team has killed the Yellow Turban Army Commandant, the elite heavy-armored Sword and Shield soldier, Chen Heng. You have also wiped out his soldiers. Your reputation with the Tao Qianjun army has increased. Current reputation level, respect. Your reputation with the Yellow Turban army has decreased. Current reputation level, hostile. The Black Soul Stone's current growth rate is, if Li Shui had chosen Profession Change Mission 1, he would have completed it by now. Killing a level 3 elite and more than 10 level 1 and level 2 soldiers would definitely give him a lot of reputation. In fact, when Li Shui saw Chen Heng's corpse on the ground, he felt like he was in a dream. A level 3 elite. A guy with a challenge rating of 6 had fallen in front of him just like that? Hey, come back to your senses. Bai Xiaowen waved his hand in front of Li Shui's face. What are you thinking about? Li Shui shook her head. It's nothing. I just remembered the last profession advancement mission. When I was in the world of Faust, a level 2 elite javelin thrower almost killed me. When I met a level 3 elite, I always took a detour. Xiaowen, it's great to have you here. Don't worry. You will definitely complete the profession change mission. Bai Xiaowen smiled. Hurry up. Clean up the battlefield and open the treasure chest before the Yellow Turban army arrives. In fact, the addition of Bai Xiaowen, a level 1 metahuman, had doubled the difficulty of the profession change mission. Therefore, Bai Xiaowen did not let his guard down just because of a small victory. The real challenge was still to come. However, in order to let Li Shui rid himself of the fear of failure, Bai Xiaowen deliberately pretended that victory was in his hands. As expected, Li Shui was affected. He smiled sweetly. In this battle, Bai Xiaowen obtained a total of 174 psionic points. 100 of them were contributed by Chen Heng. In addition to the silver treasure chest dropped by Chen Heng, the other dozen or so Yellow Turban army soldiers also dropped 2 bronze treasure chests. It was a pleasant surprise. Bai Xiaowen opened Chen Heng's silver treasure chest first. Then, he let Li Shui choose a card. The reward for killing Chen Heng was C, so there was only one chance to draw. Fortunately, it was not a buy. You have received a special item, Yellow Turban Army Commandant Waist Tag. Li Shui was stunned when he saw the remaining 11 silver cards turn into psionic particles and disappear. I got a dog tag, Bai Xiaowen chuckled. Shui, it seems that there are times when you are not popular. But it's okay. This waist tag can be used as a stepping stone to gain Liu Bei's trust. It's not bad. Of course, the waist tag of a commandant was more valuable than the waist tag of a sergeant. Bai Xiaowen chose to obtain the commandant's waist token, but he received a second spiritual world law notification. You have received a special item, topographic map of the outskirts of Shuzhou City. This item will definitely drop. It will not appear in the list of loot drops. It seems that Zhang Heng was the leader of the scouts. He was in charge of surveying the terrain of the outskirts of Shuzhou City. This saves us a lot of time. Shi, open the remaining 2 bronze treasure chests. I will take a look at the map first. Bai Xiaowen opened the map. Bai Xiaowen did not think that there was anything special about the bronze treasure chests if the level 3 elite silver treasure chests were so weak. Especially since the 2 bronze treasure chests only had a D battle rating. It was good enough that they did not get a buy. However, most of the time, the god of dice's rolling trajectory was unexpected. Xiaowen. It dropped a piece of blue equipment. Li Shi's voice changed from excitement. If Zhang Heng's chest had dropped a piece of blue equipment, Li Shi would not have been so excited. More importantly, it had dropped from the bronze chest of an ordinary soldier. Bai Xiaowen was stunned. Ol Yao's words echoed in his mind. Ordinary monsters have a small chance of dropping blue equipment. Elite monsters have a small chance of dropping gold equipment. Boss monsters have a small chance of dropping dark gold equipment. It all depends on your luck. Chapter 88. Hornbow, Grade, Elite, Blue, Equipment Position, Two-Handed, Equipment Requirements, Strength 4, Agility 5, Attributes, Attack Power 4 to 9, Agility +1, Durability Description. The hornbow is one of the best bows in Huaxia. It was made with hundreds of meticulous processes. The hornbow also came with a quiver made of iron arrows. There was no need to elaborate on its attributes. Every iron arrow had an additional attack power of 1. After reading the description of the hornbow, Bai Xiaowen nodded and smiled. Not bad. I take back what I said. You've always been the European king. You've never changed. Oh, you can replace that old crossbow of yours. Bai Xiaowen chose to give the hornbow to Li Shi. Li Shi happily pulled the bow, put it away, pulled it back, and put it away again. He was familiarizing himself with the bow's functions. She had an advanced level 1 shooting skill. She could use long-range weapons with ease after a few more tries. Alright, Shi, let's go. Bai Xiaowen put away the map. The two of them talked as they walked. Bai Xiaowen recalled the group of Yellow Turban Army soldiers he had just killed. He said, I think I understand why Liu Bei's army can't break through the Yellow Turban Army's defense line and enter Su province even though they have 3 Lord-level generals. Why? Li Shi asked. It's because of the Yellow Turban Army's 2 buffs. Bai Xiaowen said. The Fire Demon's Prayer buff allows ordinary soldiers to attack with fire damage that ignores defense. Although the fire damage is low, it accumulates. Even an ant can bite an elephant to death. In addition, the Yellow Turban Army soldiers drink talisman water. Not only do they feel less pain, but they also fight to the death. This way, it's impossible to defeat the Yellow Turban Army's morale with bravado alone. Bai Xiaowen's gift of insight was no longer a secret. The only thing he hid was the fact that he could see other people's innate gifts. Li Shi nodded and said, Liu Bei's army borrowed soldiers from Gongsunzan to save Shuzhou. They don't have enough soldiers. No wonder they could only face off against the Yellow Turban Army. From the topographic map, the Yellow Turban Army encircled the city, divided into 4 main camps and 4 auxiliary camps, totaling 8 camps. The main camp corresponded to the 4 gates in the east, west, north, and south, while the auxiliary camps were located at the 4 corners of Shuzhou City. Their military strength was relatively small, and their main purpose was to communicate with the main camp. If we want to break through the siege, we can't go to the main camp. We can only go to the secondary camp. Does the map show the location of Liu Bei's army? Li Shi asked. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. No. However, considering that Yuzhou is northeast of Shuzhou, Liu Bei's army should be in the north. Then, which subcamp should we challenge? Northeast or northwest? Li Shi asked. No. We can't go to either of these 2 subcamps. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said with certainty, the Yellow Turban Army is facing off against Liu Bei. There must be a lot of soldiers in the north. Even the subcamps are full of elite soldiers. It's too difficult to break through. If we want to leave, we'll go to the sub-camp in the south. Once we break through the blockade, we'll go around and meet up with Liu Bei's army. The 24 hours given to us should be enough. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi encountered some scattered Yellow Turban army soldiers along the way. With Bai Xiaowen's psyche scan, they were able to detect the enemy in advance and only attack when they were certain that they could fight. Psyche scan was very useful. It was like a human-shaped self-driving radar. Night fell. Bai Xiaowen sat cross-legged outside the Yellow Turban Army's subcamp in the southeast. He used his psyche link to control the shadow assassin and silently sneaked in. Just as Bai Xiaowen had predicted, the Yellow Turban Army's subcamp in the southeast consisted mostly of Taiping believers. Only about 1/10 of them were regular Yellow Turban Army soldiers. This greatly increased the shadow assassin's chances of sneaking in. Due to the high level of difficulty in the Three Kingdoms, the shadow assassin under Bai Xiaowen's control moved cautiously even though he was entering the Yellow Turban Army's vice camp. The path he chose to explore was filled with Taiping believers and refugees. As for the vice general's tent in the center, he wouldn't enter it no matter what. After exploring the general situation of the camp, Bai Xiaowen had already mapped out the best path to break through the camp in his mind. It was important to note that even with the best path, they would have to pass through 6 to 7 shacks and 2 regular army tents. It was inevitable that there would be fighting during the journey. Once the fighting started, if they could not end it quickly, the Yellow Turban Army soldiers from other areas would rush over and drown Bai Xiaowen in the Sea of People's War. There were thousands of regular soldiers in the southeast subcamp. There were close to 10,000 irregular believers and refugees. The spit of any one of them could suffocate Bai Xiaowen to death. Fortunately, Bai Xiaowen was prepared for this. He took out water sacks filled with oil from his storage space and distributed them to his summoned creatures. Each of the skeleton soldiers carried several water sacks on their backs. "Xiaowen, are you planning to attack with fire?" Li Shi asked softly. Li Shi had already guessed this when Bai Xiaowen was purchasing tung oil in Shuzhou City. That's right. The Yellow Turban Army's tents are all made of wood. The shacks are made of worn-out linen and leather. They can be set on fire easily. Only by creating chaos will we have a chance to sneak through the camp. Bai Xiaowen tied the last water sack to the shadow assassin's back. It's a pity that the people in Shuzhou City are in a state of panic. It's hard to buy military supplies like tung oil. After going to so many shops, we only managed to buy this little bit from the Mi family shop. However, it should be enough to break through the Yellow Turban Army's subcamp. Taking advantage of the night to launch an attack, the Wolf King took the lead and jumped over the fences of the camp. 4 skeleton soldiers and a shadow assassin followed closely behind, vaguely forming the embryonic form of an elite squad. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi were at the back with long-range firearms and arrows. The Wolf King had just bitten 2 Yellow Turban Army soldiers to death when it caused a commotion. A shrill alarm blared throughout the camp. "Set the fire!" Bai Xiaowen divided his attention to several places. While attacking, he controlled the skeleton soldiers and shadow assassins to set fire to the camp and the shacks. After the tung oil burned, it emitted a pungent black smoke that quickly covered the entrance of the camp, making the visibility at night even lower. The Yellow Turban Army soldiers who wanted to attack the skeleton soldiers didn't even have the chance to charge forward before the Wolf King's angry claws pounced on them. Tear, rend, and other skills were used consecutively, causing them to fall like weeds. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi took care of the brawny Yellow Turban Army soldiers who appeared occasionally. Chapter 89. If there was no talisman water, these farmers who had just put down their hoes might have directly exploded and fled. However, it was precisely because of the frenzied state caused by the talisman water that these weak chickens, who relied purely on numbers, became cannon fodder that did not fear death and injury. They forcibly blocked Liu Bei's army, which had 3 great suzerain-level fierce generals, outside of Shuzhou City. With the Wolf King leading the way, Bai Xiaowen's team charged all the way to the middle of the shack area, following the path that Bai Xiaowen had identified as the weakest point of the enemy's defense. They had already advanced more than 50 steps. Suddenly, a shout came from the front. It sounded like a wave crashing into a reef. A yellow turban army man in full armor stopped the Wolf King. He slammed the iron shield in his hand and blocked the Wolf King's attack. After using insight, Bai Xiaowen discovered that this yellow turban army man was also an elite. He had the same class as Chen Heng, a heavy armor swordsman. If they were stopped by this tough nut to crack, Bai Xiaowen's side would be in danger when the fearless cult members rushed over and injured by the fire demon Zhu Qiao. Fortunately, Bai Xiaowen had been mentally prepared to run into an elite. He hadn't made a move all this time. The shadow assassin, who only cared about creating chaos by setting fire, emerged from the darkness and stabbed the back of the heavily armored swordsman's neck with a dagger. The Wolf King Wrathclaw's Ren was activated, and the heavy armored swordsman's armor was reduced by 30%, and it was also inflicted with 2 stacks of bleeding effect. The heavy armored swordsman's body swayed. The Wolf King Wrathclaw knocked him back a few meters and caused him to fall to the ground. The Wolf King then continued forward without delay. The heavily armored shield bearers struggled to their feet and continued the chase, but they were blocked by the believers and ordinary soldiers who were running around like headless flies. He roared angrily, but in the chaos of the night, with the fires and smoke of the shanties, few people paid attention to his command. Since Bai Xiaowen had chosen an excellent route, he had only encountered 2 or 3 elite sword shield bearers along the way, and they had all been left far behind. Thus, their progress was quite smooth. Gradually, they reached the rear half of the Yellow Turban Army's secondary camp. According to Bai Xiaowen's memory, they would reach the end of the blockade line in another 130 to 140 meters. By now, Bai Xiaowen was feeling a little tired. The 4 skeleton soldiers had lost more than half of their HP, and the Wrathclaw Alpha Wolf was only left with 2/3 of its HP. It was also fortunate that Bai Xiaowen had the ability of Mental Link, which allowed him to control the positioning of the skeleton soldiers. Otherwise, the skeleton soldiers would have been killed before they could even make it halfway through. Once the skeleton soldiers were killed, without so many summoned creatures to protect each other, the dominoes would continue to collapse and the skeleton soldiers would die one after another. If the skeleton soldiers were all dead and there were no summoned creatures to protect the Wolf King's flanks, the Wolf King Wrathclaw wouldn't be able to survive for long under the constant attacks of a bunch of minions with the Fire Demon's Blessing status. Bai Xiaowen ordered the shadow assassins to turn invisible again and sneak forward 100 meters. Along the way, they threw the remaining tung oil onto the nearby shacks and tents to create more chaos. Insolent fiendish demon, how dare you burn down the heavenly army barracks? Hurry up and show yourself. A loud shout startled Bai Xiaowen. He immediately switched to the shadow assassin's side. A white-bearded Taoist with a wrinkled face stood majestically in front of the shadow assassins. He pointed the wooden sword in his hand, and a bolt of lightning shot out. This Taoist can see through the shadow assassin's invisibility. I'm afraid he's a commander-tier monster. He's no weaker than the talisman tamer Ji Ming I killed in the wilderness on Earth. The bolt of lightning struck the shadow assassins, and the shadow assassin's HP fell by nearly half. Yellow Turban Army's Thunder Demon Arcane Master Zhang Yin's spell dealt 41 damage to the shadow assassins. Bai Xiaowen was shocked. After all, the shadow assassins had 9 vitality after reaching level 2, which meant they had 90 HP and 9 magic resistance. Although they had a 50% chance of being damaged by spells, it was still shocking that a single attack could deal 41 damage to the shadow assassins. Zhang Yin's spells were much more powerful than Ji Ming's. Ji Ming's abilities were mostly reflected in his summoned creatures. Bai Xiaowen quickly confirmed one thing. If the old Taoist Zhang Yin blocked their way, they wouldn't be able to break through in a short period of time. Fortunately, they were more than 100 meters away from the shadow assassins, so they hadn't encountered Zhang Yin yet. Bai Xiaowen quickly made a decision. The shadow assassins turned left and ran toward the southeast vice camp's central camp, spraying tung oil along the way. The shadow assassins had 17 dexterity, so they could dodge and maneuver in the chaos. Their running speed didn't slow down much. Zhang Yin, on the other hand, was blocked by several Yellow Turban Army soldiers. He wanted to continue attacking the shadow assassins with spells, but he was worried that he would accidentally kill his allies, so he could only stomp his feet and curse. Although he was cursing, Zhang Yin still had to chase after the shadow assassins. He called over a few strong yellow turban army soldiers and sternly said, "You guys guard the camp tightly. You must kill those bastards who broke into the camp. I'll chase after the demon who set the fire. We can't alarm the doctor." Bai Xiaowen had spent a lot of effort to choose the escape route for the shadow assassins. They ran all the way to the central camp of the southeast vice camp while spraying tung oil. It was obvious that they were going to set the central camp of the southeast vice camp on fire. The central camp of the southeast vice camp had many elite soldiers and powerful doctors. Even if the shadow assassins set the camp on fire, they wouldn't be able to burn it down. They would only end up getting killed. However, Zhang Yin couldn't just leave them alone. Even if the shadow assassins destroyed the central camp's last hope and disturbed the doctors who were casting spells to protect the heavenly soldiers, it was still Zhang Yin's responsibility. After sensing that Zhang Yin had left, Bai Xiaowen secretly heaved a sigh of relief. His guess had been confirmed. The Yellow Turban Army's powerful buffs didn't come out of nowhere. They must be maintained by people with powerful sorcery. If I speculate further, each camp should have a powerful sorcerer casting spells to maintain the fanaticism of the whole army and the fire demon's blessing state. Judging from Zhang Yin's attitude, I made the right move. Zhang Yin chased after the shadow assassins. Bai Xiaowen and the others had already advanced to a distance of 100 meters. A few level 3 and level 4 Yellow Turban Army soldiers led the way and formed a crescent-shaped encirclement, ready for battle. The Wolf King Wrathclaw raised its head and howled. A blood-red light once again enveloped Bai Xiaowen and the others. Everyone's attack power and attack speed were increased by 20%. However, the total damage dealt was not increased by 20%, but by 44%. Bai Xiaowen finally ordered the Wrathclaw to use its howl skill and reveal their trump card. The group was like a sharp sword that had just been unsheathed. They killed a level 4 Yellow Turban Army soldier in the shortest time possible. Then, they broke through the crescent-shaped encirclement and left. Chapter 90. Inside a forest. We actually made it out alive. Even the Lord-tier generals couldn't break through this blockade. Li Shi was still in disbelief. Correction. It was because of the threat of the 3 Lord-tier generals that the Yellow Turban Army shifted their main force to the north. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to break through. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, "Secondly, we didn't have many people. We took advantage of the fact that the Yellow Turban Army's defense was weak at night. If Guan Yu, Zhao Yun, and Zhang Fei weren't held back by Liu Bei's soldiers, it would have been much easier for them to break through the encampment. We should be safe now, right? Do you want to rest for a while? Your summon creatures don't have much health left." Li Shi said. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and fed the Wrathclaw an advanced health potion. Then, he bandaged its wounds and said, "We can't stop." He patted the Wrathclaw's head and the Wrathclaw rubbed Bai Xiaowen's palm. After the Wrathclaw drank the health potion, its health slowly recovered. As for the skeleton soldiers, they were more helpless. They were undead creatures of the bone race. While they were immune to bleeding and didn't know fatigue, they couldn't drink health potions to recover their health. They could only slowly recover their health over time. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi were tired. They sat on the Wrathclaw's back and rested. Looking at the skeleton soldiers that had less than 1/3 of their health left, Li Shi suddenly said, "Xiaowen, it was a wise decision to let me practice long-range shooting. If I was still a melee fighter, I wouldn't have been able to survive with my 4 points of vitality." Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "Switching to shooting is just for the sake of completing the mission. When you succeed, you will most likely become an agility-based warrior." Li Shi nodded and looked expectant. "I've always liked to practice swordsmanship since I was young. If I had a choice, I would definitely choose to be a warrior." Bai Xiaowen smiled and did not say anything. He had been thinking. After encountering Liu Bei's army, What should I do to help Li Shi pave the way for the job-changing mission? Now, Bai Xiaowen's mind had already brewed several draft plans. As for which draft could be put into practice, it would depend on the specific situation. After walking for about 10 minutes, the skeleton soldier's HP had recovered to 2/3 of its original HP. The Wrathclaw Wolf King's HP had also recovered to full. Suddenly, Bai Xiaowen, who was deep in thought, opened his eyes. He carried Li Shi, and with a powerful stomp, he jumped down from the back of Wolf King Rage Claw. The Wrathclaw Wolf King was running at high speed. Bai Xiaowen's jump was no different from jumping off a speeding car. He rolled a few times on the ground and was covered in dirt and grass. He looked quite pathetic. However, the moment Bai Xiaowen jumped off with Li Shi, a dazzling electric light bombarded the back of the Wrathclaw Wolf King. The Wrathclaw roared in pain. The hair on its back stood on end as a terrible wound appeared on its back. The blood was evaporated by the dense electric power and was charred black. What a bunch of thieves! If I didn't have the teleport talisman given to me by the highly skilled doctor, I wouldn't have been able to catch up to you. Along with this voice, the old Taoist priest Zhang Yin, whose face was full of wrinkles, floated 10 meters in front of Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi. There was a faint light flashing under his feet. It was as if he was walking on air. This was the effect of the teleport talisman that he had mentioned. After the attack, the effect of the teleport talisman gradually disappeared. The light under Zhang Yin's feet also dissipated. However, he no longer needed the teleport talisman to increase his speed. He successfully blocked Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi's path. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi struggled to get up from the ground. Zhang Yin looked around and finally fixed his gaze on Bai Xiaowen. He said leisurely, "I didn't expect that you would be able to command such a powerful Wolf King and so many corpse soldiers and demons to help you out even though your strength is not high. It's a pity that you have just broken out of the Heavenly Army camp. You are already at the end of your rope. You have no power to resist me. Why aren't you kneeling and surrendering?" Bai Xiaowen had already used insight. Zhang Yin, leader, /challenge rating, 9, race, humanoid/human, profession, lightning summoner level 3, attributes, strength 8, agility 10, constitution 22, spirit 31, skills, lightning strike, chain lightning, lightning shield. He's stalling for time. There must be someone chasing after him. Bai Xiaowen's face was cold. He aimed his gun at Zhang Yin. "Go, kill him." Zhang Yin's expression changed slightly. The Wolf King Wrathclaw howled and pounced. The 4 skeleton soldiers, who were not at full health, also surrounded Zhang Yin. "You don't know what's good for you." Zhang Yin pointed his mahogany sword at the 4 skeleton soldiers. However, just as the lightning was about to erupt, Bai Xiaowen's lips opened silently. It was as if a shout had rung in Zhang Yin's ears. Reprimand. Zhang Yin's chain lightning skill that he had prepared was abruptly interrupted, and he fell into the fear state. Bai Xiaowen fired, Li Shi drew his bow, the skeleton soldiers swung their iron swords, and the Wrathclaw used tear plus laceration. A wave of powerful firepower poured down on Zhang Yin, who was in the fear state. Bai Xiaowen's single attack could only deal about 10 points of damage. He was secretly shocked. The old Taoist Zhang Yin's 22 points of constitution was not for show. He could reduce the damage by more than half. As for the others' attacks, the skeleton soldiers and Li Shi's damage was only in the single digits. Fortunately, there were enough of them. The Wrathclaw was the most powerful. It used tear and laceration one after another. Not only did it take out more than 30 points of Zhang Yin's health, it also caused him to bleed. After the first wave of attacks, Zhang Yin's HP had already dropped by 1/3. However, while Zhang Yin was injured, he was also out of the fear state. He roared and pointed his mahogany sword at the sky. Lightning surged and turned into 3 lightning balls that surrounded his body. Message: Summon Thunder Devil. Zhang Yin's skill, Lightning Shield, has been activated. Each lightning ball will deal magic damage to melee attackers and paralyze them for 1 second. Bai Xiaowen had thought of a way to counter this skill after he discovered it. The Wolf King Wrathclaw paused for a moment. The 3 skeleton soldiers pounced one after another. Each of the skeleton soldiers crashed into a lightning ball. Their health points dropped rapidly, and they were paralyzed. Fortunately, they shared the damage of the lightning shield and did not let the lightning balls hit the same target. The 3 skeleton soldiers that went to tank the lightning were all injured but not killed. They only had about 10 points of health left. Zhang Yin's lightning shield was also depleted. He took this opportunity to escape the encirclement of the skeleton soldiers. His hair stood on end as he shouted angrily, "Become the sacrifice of the yellow sky world." Powerful lightning energy surged, and a message followed. Message: Summon Thunder Devil. Zhang Yin's unknown skill has been activated. However, Zhang Yin neglected one point. That was the fastest and most threatening Wolf King Wrathclaw. It was not hit by the lightning shield and did not enter a paralyzed state. Under Bai Xiaowen's mind link, the Wolf King Wrathclaw roared and activated its ultimate skill, Suppress. P.S. I want to discuss something with everyone. Can you give me a review vote? Old Ye is in urgent need of 5-star reviews. Currently, there are very few reviews. A few 3 stars pulled the score down to 7. 1. I really can't afford to be hurt. Brothers, please give me a 5-star review vote, don't give me a 4-star review. Thanks. Chapter 91. Wrathclaw, leader of the pack of wolves, pounces on a target within 10 meters at extreme speed and attacks the target 5 times in a row. Each attack reduces damage by 50%, inflicting a bleed effect. Targets smaller than Wrathclaw will be knocked to the ground and unable to move. The duration is determined by the strength of both parties. The base duration is 5 seconds. Wrathclaw had 4 skills: Bite, Rend, Howl, and Wrathclaw. Bite and Rend were minor skills that didn't cost any MP and had short cooldowns. Howl was a powerful AoE skill with a cooldown of 2 hours. Furthermore, it cost 3 points of Rage Claw's MP. Basically, it could only be used once in a battle. The last ultimate skill, Wrathclaw, was a powerful single-target skill, but it required agility to hit the target. Once hit, it would deal high damage and inflict a bleed effect. Smaller targets would also be knocked down. Wrathclaw was the size of a water buffalo. Any humanoid monster would be knocked down by Wrathclaw. Of course, this skill had an 8-hour cooldown and 6 MP cost, so it could only be used as a trump card. Zhang Yin, the Yellow Turban Army summoner, only had 10 MP, while Wrathclaw had 23 MP. Wrathclaw successfully judged Zhang Yin to be knocked to the ground. The strength ratio was now 8:17, and the duration of Wrathclaw increased to 4 seconds. There was no need to hold back. Bai Xiaowen activated Combo Shot, while Li Shi drank a bottle of Battle Potion. After the paralysis effect wore off, the 4 skeleton soldiers charged forward with their swords in hand. Bai Xiaowen was quite cunning. He focused all of his attacks on Zhang Yin's legs. Zhang Yin managed to hold on for 4 seconds with much difficulty. He let out a muffled roar and took advantage of the time when Angry Claw regained its breath to roll out. He raised his hand and threw out a yellow-orange token. When it landed on the ground, it transformed into a tall wooden man. Then, Zhang Yin broke into a run. However, one of his legs was crippled. He was limping and couldn't run fast. The Wrathclaw and the 4 melee skeleton soldiers tried to give chase, but the wooden golem slammed the ground forcefully, causing the ground to tremble and the group to slow down. Obviously, the wooden dummy summoned by this token belonged to the type with low attack, high defense, and high HP. In addition, it had an AoE speed reduction skill, which was very useful for covering and escaping. However, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi were both long-range attackers. They ignored the wooden dummies and continued to fire at Zhang Yin, who was limping and bleeding heavily. Before he could run far, Zhang Yin fell to the ground with a thud. Following his death, the wooden puppet also turned into light and disappeared. Prompt information: you killed the Yellow Turban Army's deputy chief physician. Summon Lightning Demon Art Master Zhang Yin in party mode. You've received 3,000 mana points. Your reputation with Tao Qianjun has greatly increased. Current reputation level, revered. Your prestige in the Yellow Turban Army has greatly decreased. Current prestige level, hatred. After Zhang Ying died, he left behind a golden treasure chest. Bai Xiaowen took a deep breath and treated the wounds of the Wrath Claw. Then, he quickly opened the golden treasure chest. The reward for killing Zhang Ying was B, and there were 2 chances to draw. Time was limited, and the Yellow Turban Army was still chasing them. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi quickly drew the loot. You've received a B-grade item, Wooden Dummy Token. Using the Wooden Dummy Token, you can summon a wooden dummy with Thunder Stomp and Heavy Strike skills. Number of uses available, 2 halves. You've received an A-grade item, Thunderstorm Scroll. Requires 10 seconds of preparation to use the Thunderstorm Scroll. Creates a large-scale thunderstorm in the target area, causing AoE damage and AoE paralysis to all enemies. During the duration, it will continuously consume the user's mental strength. When the user's mental strength is lower than 2, it will consume the user's health. Oh, no equipment. Li Shi was a little disappointed. Alright, you're lucky to get such a useful Thunderstorm Scroll. You're much luckier than me. Bai Xiaowen smiled. Suddenly, he saw Zhang Yin's corpse glowing. He crouched down and touched it. Immediately, he received a notification. You've received a special item, Zhang Yin's severed head. This item will definitely drop. It will not appear in the loot list. Do you wish to receive it? Bai Xiaowen chose yes without hesitation. Zhang Yin's severed head, as the unofficial disciple of the virtuous sage, Zhang Jiao, Zhang Yin was infamous in the 3 kingdoms. You can give Zhang Yin's severed head to any enemy faction of the Yellow Turban Army for a reward. Bai Xiaowen pondered for a while and felt happy. Previously, when he killed the Yellow Turban Army's commandant Chen Heng, his head did not drop. It was probably because Chen Heng was not famous enough. With Zhang Yin's severed head, it would not be a problem to gain the trust of Liu Bei's army. Alright, let's go. We can slow down a bit. There's no need to rush, Bai Xiaowen said. Zhang Yin had chased after them with the help of a spirit travel talisman. The other Yellow Turban Army obviously did not have this ability. As long as they maintained a constant speed, they would not be caught. Xiaowen, you knew from the start that this old Taoist would catch up, right? Li Shi said, otherwise, you wouldn't have been in such a hurry. You even saved the Wolf King's ultimate move until now. During the intense battle, Bai Xiaowen did not use the Wrath Claw's ultimate move. At first, Li Shi felt that it was strange, but now it seemed that this showed Bai Xiaowen's brilliance. Without the Wolf King's ultimate move, it would be very difficult to kill Zhang Yin. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, I don't have such a powerful prediction ability. I'm just taking precautions. As for the Wrath Claw's ultimate move, it's a single target control skill. It won't be very useful when we're breaking through the camp, so I saved it. The group continued on their way. Bai Xiaowen took a moment to look at the Black Soul Stone. After absorbing the level 3 Zhang Yin soul, the Black Soul Stone's growth had increased. Bai Xiaowen also had 12 soul essence. Without hesitation, he chose to use 10 soul essence to unlock the first effect of the second layer of the stone. Enhancement effect activated. All skeletal warriors stats +2. After this round of strengthening, the appearance of Bai Xiaowen's 4 skeleton soldiers had changed. The rust on the iron swords had disappeared, and the wooden shields looked brand new. There were even a few pieces of broken armor hanging on the hollow skeletons. The 4 skeletal warriors' stats had greatly increased. Their strength was 11, constitution was 10, dexterity was 7, and spirit was 3. In terms of overall stats, they were not inferior to level 2 elite creatures. However, the skeletal warriors' growth rate was still 3 ones. When they reached a higher level, the gap between them and elite creatures would widen again. Chapter 92. Students who were tricked by the title, don't be in a hurry to leave. I have wine. By the way, let me tell you my story. I'm a salted fish. I've been in the industry for 5 years and have written 5 books. Except for the second book, which had some success, the other books all failed. After a series of failures, I was anxious and went outside to write a guaranteed story for a year. There was no other way. The young you was now an old you. My wife also gave birth to a child, so I had to take the responsibility of supporting the family. And the guaranteed story was based on the number of words, so there was a minimum income guarantee. But as I wrote, I began to doubt myself. Would I like to read modular gimmick novels myself? No. It's a bit sad that an author doesn't even like to read his own novel. My wife found a job. The income wasn't high, but it was stable. She said to me, "Go write what you want to write. I can support the family." At that time, I had mixed feelings. It was difficult to describe in words. As long as you're a man, you should be able to understand. I almost went back to the starting point with the mentality of putting all my eggs in one basket. During the day, I had to take care of the child. At night, I checked the information, adjusted the data, and thought about the background setting. Usually, when I came across a funny story, I would immediately drop what I was doing and quickly write it down. After 3 months of preparation and several revisions, I had this eye of evolution. To be honest, innovation is very difficult. In the past, I was a tentacle monster with a speed of 4,000+ words per hour. But when I wrote this book, my speed dropped below 1,000 words. It often took me 2 or 3 hours to finish a chapter that satisfied me. Maybe in the middle and later stages, it would be faster. However, I didn't regret it because I also liked to read this novel. I read all the chapters several times. I even opened the introduction of this chapter one by one. Sometimes, I would laugh out loud. This book's collection and recommendation tickets are also the fastest rising since I started writing. Currently, there are 25,000+ collections. It is expected to reach 30,000 next week. It's nothing compared to other authors, but it's several times better than the books that I, a salted fish, wrote in the past. October 1st, which is tomorrow, this book will be on the shelves. I'm a bit panicked. Sigh, I usually call myself Yeshua, but I'm actually panicking. If the subscriptions are bleak, Yeshua will have to work part-time. A man can't rely on his wife to support him. Brothers, please do your best and don't run away as soon as you see the VIP. At least leave a first order, okay? Old you would be very grateful if you could book all of them. Of course, before asking for a subscription, I had to correct my attitude. Firstly, the data should be simplified as much as possible. The complete attribute panel should be placed on the work. If the plot required it and there was more data, I would add some extra free words. According to the charging system, the whole 1,000 words would be counted as money. For example, if there were more than 2,100 words, the next 100 words would be free. Secondly, he had to constantly update the book, and he had to ensure the quality of the book was complete. Third, ensure the quality while adding more chapters. Prompt information frowny face SSS Descendant of God main mission, subscription activated. Mission target, on October 1st, after the Eye of Evolution is available, click on the subscription button. Time limit, 31 days. Completion, past subscriptions reach 1,000, minimum 2 updates guaranteed. Additional completion reward, every time the subscription increases by 100, an additional chapter will be updated. There is no upper limit. Emphasis here, completion rate, excellent subscriptions reach 2,000, guaranteed to be updated at least 3 times. The additional completion rewards are the same as above. Completion, perfect 3,000 subscriptions, guaranteed minimum 4 updates. The additional completion rewards are the same as above. Prompt information frowny face SSS Descendant of God side mission, ranking activated. Mission target, on October 1st, after the Eye of Evolution is available, click on the monthly votes and recommendation votes. Time limit, 31 days. Completion, pass enter the top 10 on the new book monthly votes list or the total recommendation votes list, an additional chapter will be added. Additional completion reward, a league level reward appears, an additional 2 chapters will be updated. There is no upper limit. Completion, excellent, enter the top 5 on the new book monthly votes list or the total recommendation votes list, an additional 2 chapters will be added. The additional completion rewards are the same as above. Completion, perfect, enter the top 3 on the new book monthly votes list or the total recommendation votes list, an additional 3 chapters will be added. The additional completion rewards are the same as above. Chapter 93. Devour. Bai Xiaowen thought for a while and understood. Skeleton warriors and yellow turban elite heavy armor sword shield warriors were both sword shield warriors. They were compatible, but their attributes were too weak before, so they did not activate the devour option. Now that all attributes were +2, the gap was narrowed. He could devour them. Master, the Black Soul Stone only contains the consciousness of one yellow turban elite heavy armor sword shield warrior. You can only choose one skeleton warrior to devour. Bai Xiaowen chose skeleton number 1. Notification, fusion complete. Your skeleton warrior number 1 has mutated into a skeleton sword shield warrior. Bai Xiaowen looked at number 1. Its appearance did not change much, but its skeleton seemed to have become thicker. The iron sword in its hand had turned into an iron sword. Its attributes did not change, but it had an additional active skill, Shield Bash. Shield Bash, use the shield to bash an enemy within melee range, causing them to lose their balance. This skill requires a strength authentication and consumes 1 point of spirit. Cooldown, 120 seconds. Shield Bash, a good skill. Bai Xiaowen's eyes lit up. Originally, Bai Xiaowen considered the skeleton warriors to be melee cannon fodder. They were summon creatures that did not have much value. However, with the addition of the Shield Bash skill, it would be different if they mutated into skeleton sword shield warriors. Thinking about it, if all 4 skeleton warriors mutated into skeleton sword shield warriors, it would be much easier to gang up on spellcasters. For example, in the battle just now, if the 4 skeleton sword shield warriors had surrounded Zhang Yin, he would not have been able to use his skill. If each of them had used Shield Bash, the Wolf King would not have needed to use his ultimate skill. Bai Xiaowen felt a little regretful. When they were charging into the camp, they had encountered a few yellow turban elite heavy armor sword shield warriors. If they could have killed them and absorbed their souls, the 4 skeleton warriors would have mutated. Phew, I can't be too greedy. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and chased the unnecessary thoughts out of his mind. There was no need to mention the danger of charging into the camp. If they were delayed for even a minute, they would be drowning in the Yellow Turban Army's secondary camp. If they still wanted to kill the enemy and reap the benefits, they would be courting death. Before noon, Bai Xiaowen and his men finally saw Liu Bei, who was having a meeting in his tent. Liu Bei was wearing a full suit of armor, with a pair of strangely shaped sheathed swords hanging from his waist. Behind him was a big red cloak, which made him look quite awe-inspiring. His appearance was not as strange as what was written in the books. His ears drooped down to his shoulders and his hands were over his knees. That was an exaggeration. However, his earlobes were indeed thick. Coupled with his fair and clean face, it was a sign of good fortune. Guan Yu and Zhang Fei stood on both sides. Bai Xiaowen deliberately took a second look at Guan Yu. He was wearing a green turban on his head, a red scarf cloak around his neck, and a green robe and green armor. From a modern perspective, the color combination was somewhat strange. Bai Xiaowen thought of the joke about a green hat and wanted to laugh. However, when he looked up and saw Guan Yu's narrowed eyes and the green dragon crescent blade, which was said to be the most powerful weapon in the Three Kingdoms period, he shuddered and felt a chill on the back of his neck. He secretly used insight. Guan Yu, Lord/Challenge rating, 22, race, humanoid/human, profession, Heavy Blade Lord, level 5, attributes, STR 60, DX 37, Con 55, WIL 26, skills. Bai Xiaowen shrunk his neck obediently. A Lord-tier general was not to be trifled with. Just his aura alone was much stronger than that of a normal leader. Among the powerful beings in the spiritual realm that Bai Xiaowen had probed, there was only one whose attributes were close to Guan Yu's. That was the champion knight of God's grace from the Aaron realm, Gloria. As a leader-tier powerhouse, Gloria had already reached level 7, which was 2 levels higher than Guan Yu. However, in terms of attributes and challenge rating, Gloria was weaker than Guan Yu. The strength of a Lord-tier powerhouse was evident. It should be noted that a Lord-tier powerhouse referred to a profession template. It was a completely different concept from a feudal lord that represented a title and official position. Did the two of you come from Shuzhou City? Good skills, as expected of the heroes of Shuzhou. Liu Bei nodded and praised. Bai Xiaowen replied, Xuanda Lord, the two of us are not from Shuzhou. We followed our parents when we were young and fled to Shuzhou. Oh? Where are the two of you from? Liu Bei asked with interest. In the Three Kingdoms, it was normal to ask about one's birthplace. It was as common as saying today's weather is good in a modern conversation. Many historical figures of the Three Kingdoms era liked to talk about their birthplace when they appeared. For example, Zhao Yun, who knew how many times he had advertised his hometown. I am Hedong Jieliang. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Xiaowen instantly felt Guan Yu's gaze. However, Guan Yu only glanced at him briefly before narrowing his eyes again. He didn't say anything. Liu Bei smiled and said, Second brother, these two young heroes are from the same hometown as you. It seems like fate has brought you together. Bai Xiaowen quickly clarified, Xuanda Lord, my adopted sister Li Yi's birthplace is not Hedong Jieliang, but Changshan County. She and I both followed our parents and fled to Shuzhou City. That's how we got to know each other. Changshan County? Which county? Liu Bei became even more interested. Xining County, Li Shi said softly. She didn't sound very confident. Liu Bei raised his head and looked at a person standing behind a few generals. He's from the same hometown as Zilong. Following Liu Bei's gaze, Bai Xiaowen saw Zhao Yun. 11 Zhao Yun wore a white robe and silver armor. He had a handsome appearance. Compared to Guan Yu's unapproachable aura, he seemed very gentle. He only smiled and glanced at Li Shi. Zhao Yun, Lord/Challenge rating, 18, race, humanoid/human, occupation, Dragon Spear Lord level 4, attributes, strength 40, agility 50, constitution 41, spirit 24, skills. Unlike Guan Yu who specialized in strength, Zhao Yun's main attribute was agility. His occupation level was 1 level lower than Guan Yu's, so his total attributes were also lower than Guan Yu's. Bai Xiaowen put away his thoughts and put on a surprised expression. I didn't expect that my adopted sister and I would meet a fellow countryman here. Furthermore, he's a general under Xuanda Lord. Just as Xuanda Lord said, fate has brought us together. I wonder if we can join Xuanda Lord's army? Liu Bei was currently lacking in soldiers and generals, so he was desperate for talents. When he saw this man who was well versed in Nanjiang's special techniques, there was no reason for him to refuse. Bai Xiaowen further presented the special item, Zhang Yin's severed head, and said, when we were breaking into the camp, this thief blocked our way. My adopted sister and I killed him. I'd like to present his severed head to you, my lord. Whose severed head is this? Liu Bei asked. Beside Liu Bei, a slightly plump scholar glanced at the severed head and said with certainty, this is Zhang Jiao's unofficial disciple, Zhang Yin's severed head. This person is notorious and was once wanted by the imperial court. Bai Xiaowen exclaimed in his heart, you're amazing. Just by looking at the image of the bloody head, he could recognize it. However, according to the rules of the spiritual realm, since Zhang Yin was notorious and the rules also indicated that he could exchange the head for a reward, there was no reason for him not to recognize it. Chapter 94. Notification, your reputation with Liu Bei's army has been unlocked. Current reputation level, respected. As soon as Bai Xiaowen heard the word reward, his heart brightened. He asked tentatively, me and my sworn sister admire Guan and Zhao, two generals under Duke Xuanda's command. I wonder if we could ask the two generals to give us some pointers in martial arts? Liu Bei's brows furrowed slightly. He first looked at Guan Yu. Guan Yu's eyes were still narrowed. He didn't look closely at the Bai Xiaowen siblings. He said faintly, you won't be able to learn my martial arts. Don't waste your energy. He's not giving me any face. Bai Xiaowen thought to himself, we're from the same hometown. Can't you be a bit more friendly? Seeing Guan Yu refuse, Zhao Yun smiled and shook his head. Liu Bei tried to smooth things over. Yun Chang and Zilong's martial arts were honed over the years. It wasn't something that was achieved overnight. You two will listen to my army and experience the battlefield. After you have a foundation, it won't be too late to ask for advice. Let's change the reward. Bai Xiaowen thought to himself, who said it won't be too late? The time limit for the mission is only 10 days. However, the A+ class change mission's difficulty had increased by 50% for the second trial. With Bai Xiaowen's participation, the difficulty had doubled once again. It was indeed impossible for him to complete the A+ class change mission so easily. Bai Xiaowen was mentally prepared for this. Is there anyone under Duke Xuanda's command who is proficient in Taoist runes? Bai Xiaowen took out the scribbled notebook. My adopted sister and I once killed a yellow turban bandit rune demon tamer. We obtained this notebook from him. Unfortunately, we don't understand runes, so we can't decipher it. Bai Xiaowen deliberately pretended to be pretentious. He stated his request and also hinted that Zhang Yin wasn't the only yellow turban bandit rune demon tamer he killed. As for how many there were, it was up to everyone's imagination. The slightly plump scholar who had recognized Zhang Yin's head grinned and said, what's so difficult about that? Show it to me. Bai Xiaowen was slightly startled. He had originally thought that Liu Bei did not have any decent literati or strategists under his command, so he was afraid that they would not be able to decipher this notebook. Therefore, he wanted to use this opportunity to make some other requests. He didn't expect the fatty to be so confident. As he handed over the notebook, Bai Xiaowen used Insight. Jianyong, Leader, /Challenge Rating, 7, Race, Humanoid/Human, Profession, Yin-Yang Master Level 3, Attributes, Strength 9, Agility 11, Constitution 24, Spirit 30, Skills, Mist, Divination. So it's Jianyong. In this world, Jianyong had followed Liu Bei so early? I really didn't expect this. Bai Xiaowen sighed. Jianyong was recorded in the history of the Three Kingdoms as being quite knowledgeable about yin and yang and was good at divination. After roughly flipping through the scribbled notebook, Jianyong smiled and said, this notebook recorded some of the Taiping cult's demonic arts using talismans. If you want to learn them, you'll need to infuse the Taiping cult's demonic energy to make the talismans appear. How much you can learn will depend on your talent in Taoist magic. Notification, Side Mission 1, Deciphering the notebook completed. You've received an A-grade item, the Book of Talismans. Bai Xiaowen took the notebook. The special item's name and nature had changed. Book of Talismans, a book that records the Tao of Talismans. There is a certain chance of learning the Tao of Talismans. Current usage, 1/1. Recharge, 0/100%. After reading the item's description, Bai Xiaowen was delighted. He immediately asked, how do I infuse my demonic energy? Jianyong said, the simplest way, of course, is to find a yellow turban army demonic art master to help you inject your demonic energy. Haha, don't look at me like that. I know that method is not very likely, so there is another alternative. After keeping him in suspense, Jianyong said, when the yellow turban army Taoist priest dies, the demonic energy in his body hasn't dissipated completely. If you place this notebook within 3 feet of his corpse, it will absorb his demonic energy. However, the efficiency is relatively low because most of the demonic energy will dissipate with the death of the target. Notification, Side Mission 2, Inject Talismans. Mission Objective, kill the Yellow Turban Army Taoist priest and inject demonic energy into the Book of Talismans. After thanking Jian Yong, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi left the tent. They had just joined Liu Bei's army, so they weren't qualified to discuss matters in Liu Bei's tent. In addition, Bai Xiaowen wanted to organize his thoughts. In the forest next to the tent, the Wrath Claw was lying on the ground covered in fallen leaves. Its body, which was as big as a buffalo, looked like a leather sofa. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi sat on the Wrath Claw's warm body to rest. At the same time, they whispered to each other. Bai Xiaowen took out some jerky, tore it apart, and fed it to the Wrath Claw. "What's going on?" Li Shi sighed. "We killed a Yellow Turban Army Taoist priest, which should be considered a great achievement. Our prestige in Liu Bei's army should be at the level of respected. Why did Guan Yu and Zhao Yun reject us at the same time?" Bai Xiaowen suddenly said, "Did you receive any notifications about your favorability level? Did Zhao Yun's favorability level with you activate?" Li Shi shook his head in confusion. "That's where the problem lies. I didn't receive any notifications about Guan Yu's favorability level either," Bai Xiaowen said slowly. "In the Three Kingdoms, teaching skills is a very important matter. It's a private matter and has nothing to do with the faction. I reckon that even if we raise our prestige in Liu Bei's army to respected, it'll still be very difficult for Guan Yu and Zhao Yun to give us pointers." Li Shi suddenly thought of something. "That's right. We should aim for Guan Yu or Zhao Yun's favorability level. Which one should we choose?" "I think we should choose Zhao Yun. He seems easier to get along with. Guan Yu is a bit too arrogant." Bai Xiaowen said, "That's not necessarily true. Zhao Yun seems easygoing, but he's very principled. I can only feel one word from his smile, alienation. Zhao Yun is a near-perfect character in the romance of the Three Kingdoms. He's almost flawless. It's very difficult to get close to him within 10 days. As for Guan Yu, being arrogant isn't necessarily a bad thing. At least it means we can take advantage of it." Bai Xiaowen stroked the Wrath Claw's smooth fur. He thought for a while and said, "How about this? I'll contact Guan Yu, and you'll contact Zhao Yun. Liu Bei's army doesn't have any decent strategists. Zhuge Liang didn't appear in advance. Jian Yong is only good at divination and persuasion. This will give us room to act. On this basis, my plan should be able to be carried out. However, you have to play the role I've designed for you." "What role?" Li Shi was eager to try. "A female Zhuge," Bai Xiaowen smiled and then whispered his plan to Li Shi. "This?" Li Shi had a difficult expression. "I'm afraid my acting skills won't pass. This is to maximize the benefits. If you want to get Guan Yu or Zhao Yun's pointers, you can't just rely on me. After all, you're the one who's going through the class advancement. If you can't get their attention, then even if you fight for the chance to give pointers, it'll probably just be perfunctory. It'll definitely affect your evaluation of the class advancement mission." Chapter 95. Liu Bei's tent. The meeting was still going on and all the generals were present in the tent. Bai Xiaowen asked for an audience again. Liu Bei did not put on any airs and immediately granted an audience. "You two have worked hard all night, why don't you rest for a while?" Liu Bei asked. Bai Xiaowen bowed and said, "Many thanks for Lord's understanding. However, the elders of Su province are trapped and the Yellow Turban bandits are rampaging. We are very worried and unable to sleep. This subordinate dares to ask, when will Lord send out the troops?" With Bai Xiaowen's status, it was slightly impudent to ask such a question. It caused Guan Yu and Zhang Fei to be displeased. Zhang Fei glared and was about to scold him when Liu Bei stopped Zhang Fei. He patiently explained, "It is normal for you to be worried about Su province. However, the Yellow Turban army is strong and has the support of Yao arts. Our forces are weak and rashly advancing will only result in losses. Bai Xiaowen purposefully glanced at Li Shi. Li Shi understood and lightly made a motion of nodding. Bai Xiaowen hesitated and said, "Lord, the Yellow Turban army appears strong but is weak inside. That kind of Yao art blessing requires a Yao art master of the level of a great doctor of the Yellow Turban army to cast spells day and night to maintain it. If a fierce general kills a great doctor, the Yao art will be broken." Liu Bei frowned and said, "The Yellow Turban army has many people and we have few people. If we send a general to charge the camp, I fear that he will be surrounded and killed before he can see the great doctor." Bai Xiaowen looked again at Li Shi. After receiving Li Shi's nod, he said, "Lord, us brother and sister are not as strong as Generals Guan, Zhang, and Zhao, but we were able to charge through the blockade. With the abilities of the 3 generals and the support of elite troops, can they not do what we did?" Bai Xiaowen's words were a bit sarcastic. Zhang Fei slapped the table angrily and said, "You little brat. You broke into the Yellow Turban Bandits subcamp, and they are a group of old, weak, sick and disabled people. What is there to be proud of? You come with me to challenge us. Let's fight and see the strength of the Yellow Turban Bandits. Then you will know how high the sky is and how thick the high ground is." Bai Xiaowen coughed. Li Shi said softly, "Third General, please don't be angry. Actually, Yi Xiong has a plan to defeat the enemy. Please allow him to explain it in detail." Everyone's attention was once again focused on Bai Xiaowen. However, Liu Bei, Zhao Yun, and the others who were more attentive still took a second look at Li Shi. Bai Xiaowen snorted and said, "How can you fight against the main force of the Yellow Turban Bandits? Since the main force of the bandits was concentrated on the northern front, why not send a general to the southern front to raid the camp?" The 3rd general had also said that the southern front was filled with a bunch of old, weak, sick, and disabled people. If we kill the great doctors of the southeast and southwest camps, will they be able to maintain their Yao techniques? These words were a bit blunt, but when the people in the tent heard this, they all fell into deep thought. Even Zhang Fei did not continue to refute this. If we split off the main force to raid the camp, our main force will definitely be empty. Once the Yellow Turban Bandits discover the truth, we will be in danger. However, this is still a good plan. Liu Bei first suppressed his anger and then spoke in a low voice, "The fact that the 2 of you were able to charge out of the southeast camp shows how weak the bandits on the southern front are. Bai Xiaowen, MMP, our army can set up a false flag in the camp and use the sand as a distraction. Then, we can send 2 troops to the southern front and attack the southeast and southwest camps to kill the great doctors of the bandits." In reality, Bai Xiaowen had also thought of setting up a false flag and pretending to be a distraction, but he did not say it out loud. As for why, it was because he wanted to give the leader a chance to perform. In this way, with Liu Bei's polishing, this plan could be said to have come from Liu Bei's hands, and it would greatly reduce the resistance to implementing it. Li Shi lightly pulled on Bai Xiaowen's sleeve. This action was very small. Bai Xiaowen pretended to suddenly understand and coughed before adding, "That's right, the 2 troops sent out must be small in number. Otherwise, they will be easily discovered by the Yellow Turban Bandits scouts." Liu Bei smiled wholeheartedly and glanced at Li Shi. He nodded and said, "Of course." He then looked around the tent and said, "Who is willing to raid the camp?" The generals in the tent all asked to be sent out. Guan Yu opened his eyes slightly and took a step forward. Instantly, the volume of their voices decreased by half. Zhang Fei stroked his beard and turned around to glare at the deputy generals and deputy generals. He shouted, "This battle must be won, not lost. Second brother and I have to go out. If we can't kill the great doctors in one battle, we will be looked down upon by the ignorant brats." The generals who asked to be sent out all shrunk their heads, not daring to argue with Zhang Fei. Zhao Yun stood among the generals and did not say anything. He also did not join the ranks of those who asked to be sent out. Liu Bei said cheerfully, "I am most at ease with Yun Chang and Ida going out. The 2 of you go and pick out the soldiers and conserve your energy. We will set out when the sky turns dark." Bai Xiaowen reminded them, "General Guan, General Zhang, the great doctors of the Yellow Turban Bandits are unfathomable. You must be careful. Guan Yu glanced at Bai Xiaowen and did not say anything. Zhang Fei sneered, when the three of us killed the yellow turban bandits, you were still drinking milk. Let's go. At night, in front of Zhao Yun's tent. Miss Li, why have you come here so late at night? In the tent, Zhao Yun was reading a book on the art of war. He looked up at Li Shi and said gently, if there is nothing important, please go back. It is not good for your reputation to meet so late at night. He was gentle and polite but kept people at arm's length. Bai Xiaowen took 2 steps forward. General Zhao is in a good mood. With your ability, do you plan to be a hidden dragon and a crouching tiger? Zhao Yun frowned and looked at Bai Xiaowen, who suddenly appeared. Why do you say that? General Zhao's ability is not below General Guan and General Zhang's. However, there is such a good opportunity tonight, but General Zhao is unwilling to compete with the two of them. Wouldn't it be a pity to miss such a good opportunity? Zhao Yun said calmly, it is useless to compete. Why should I? My lord will have a use for me. General Zhao is very broad-minded. I admire you, Bai Xiaowen said with a smile. Indeed, even if you fight for the task of raiding the camp, you will not be able to compete with my lord's 2 sworn brothers. However, there is an even better opportunity right now. It can help General Zhao succeed in this battle and surpass General Guan and General Zhang. HM? Zhao Yun was confused. Bai Xiaowen said, General Zhao, have you ever thought that General Guan and General Zhang might not succeed? Zhao Yun frowned. What do you mean? Is there a trap in the southern camp? Are you a spy for the yellow turban bandits? Seeing Zhao Yun's thoughts go astray, Bai Xiaowen quickly denied it and did not dare to keep him in suspense. No, General Zhao is thinking too much. What I mean is, after the yellow turban thieves on the southern front saw us, brother and sister, storming the camp last night and beheading Zhang Yin, they will definitely tighten their guard, their vigilance will greatly increase. Most likely they will transfer elite soldiers from the main camp to strengthen the secondary camp. General Guan and General Zhang will take a small number of elite soldiers to raid 2 heavily guarded camps. No matter how strong they are, they will not be able to directly kill the doctors of the secondary camp. Instead, they will be held back by the reinforcements from the main camp and enter a deadlock. Chapter 96. Attack the Yellow Scarf Bandits' main camp on the southern front? Zhao Yun was slightly shocked, but then he suddenly realized something and said, this is your real plan? Using Generals Guan and Zhang as bait so that I can succeed in one battle? His voice carried a trace of coldness. Bai Xiaowen scratched the back of his head. This is actually a plan that my sister came up with. She was worried that with her low strength, her words wouldn't be taken seriously, so I relayed it to her. I've already guessed that, Zhao Yun said in an indifferent voice, and it was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. Please go back. I'll report this to the Lord and ask him to make a decision. Notification: Liu Bei's Army General Zhao Yun's favorability towards you has decreased. Current favorability level, indifferent. Li Shi's expression changed slightly. Clearly, he had also received the same notification. Zhao Yun had already stood up, his expression solemn. He had no intention of continuing to communicate with the 2 siblings. Bai Xiaowen snorted heavily. My sister has good intentions, yet General Zhao is so cold. Isn't that unreasonable? Zhao Yun's figure paused. He looked at Li Shi, his gaze cold. The war is imminent, yet your sister has hidden her own selfish motives. She also concealed some of her plans. Not distinguishing between public and private interests is disloyal. Using Generals Guan and Zhang as bait to help you succeed in your own merit is disloyal. Please forgive me for not being able to agree with such disloyal and unjust actions. Disloyal and unjust? Bai Xiaowen shouted, then I'd like to ask you one thing. What benefits does my adopted sister bring to herself by doing this? Who is she helping? Zhao Yun froze. Bai Xiaowen said coldly, back in Xuzhou, my sister had already heard of Changshan's Zhao Zilong's fame. On the Yuzhou battlefield, General Zhao repelled Wen Chou in the first battle and saved Gong Sunzan's life. Why did Gong Sun-zan assign you to the rear when he was arranging his troops? Gong Sun-zan's front army was routed to the rear. If General Zhao didn't kill Chu Yi and break through the encirclement, would Gong Sun-zan's head still be there? But even with such meritorious service, General's position in Gong Sun-zan's army has never been promoted. Why is that? Zhao Yun was silent for a moment, then said, "My lord has the ambition to help the world, and the ability to see through people is not something that Gong Sun-zan can compare to." Then why did I see General Zhao in the Lord's tent during the meeting today? You have the courage of a great general, but you have to bow down to a group of deputy generals? Bai Xiaowen quickly asked. Zhao Yun said, "I have just come under the Lord's banner and have yet to make any contributions. How can I rashly be given the position of great general?" That's right. If you don't strive for merits, how can you be a great general? Bai Xiaowen said in a deep voice, "My sworn sister's ancestral home is also Jining of Changshan. Ever since she heard of General Zhao's deeds, she has always admired him and is determined to become a hero like General Zhao. She couldn't bear to see a hero being buried in a warrior suffering, so she asked me to come up with a plan. She wanted General Zhao to make meritorious contributions as soon as possible so that he could stand side by side with Guan and Zhang." While Bai Xiaowen was persuading, he was also ridiculing Zhao Yun in his heart. Zhao Yun didn't like to fight for merits, so in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, he never had the opportunity to make any contributions. All the merits were taken by Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. It was only later when Cao Cao's army went south and Liu Bei abandoned his wife and son at Changban that Zhao Yun had the opportunity to perform. He went in and out 7 times to save his master alone. Zhao Yun fell into silence again. As a general, no matter how indifferent he was, he still had the ambition to gallop on the battlefield and become famous. Seeing that Zhao Yun's expression was somewhat shaken, Bai Xiaowen finally said, "General Zhao, my sworn sister's southern battle strategy requires someone to act as bait to attract the thief army and someone to act as the main attacking general to attack the main camp. If you say she has selfish motives, then she wants to give the job of bait to Guan and Zhang, and give you the opportunity to make a contribution. However, this selfishness doesn't affect the Lord's strategic goal of defeating the Yellow Turbans at all." Zhao Yun gently sighed, shook his head and said, "I still can't sit by and watch Generals Guan and Zhang be trapped and steal merits. I will ask for the Lord's order to rescue Generals Guan and Zhang. If the Lord finds out about your selfishness, I'm afraid it won't be appropriate. It's best you don't mention it to anyone else." "I will pretend I didn't hear it." Bai Xiaowen sighed and said, "Attacking the main camp is the way to maximize the benefits. Why is the general limited by small details and turning a blind eye to it?" Li Shi pulled Bai Xiaowen's sleeve, stepped forward and said, "The two of us admire General Zhao's righteousness. However, although you are brave, you are only one person. How can you save Generals Guan and Zhang at the same time? How about this, you go to the southwest subcamp to rescue General Zhang, and we will go to the southeast subcamp to rescue General Guan. If General Guan is in trouble, I won't have the face to live." Zhao Yun took a deep look at Li Shi and said in a deep voice, "All right. However, you must follow me." Li Shi revealed a stunned expression. Zhao Yun calmly said, "Your strength is weak. Even if you accompany your brother to the southeast subcamp, you won't be of much use. I'm keeping you by my side because I don't want you and your brother to have any selfish motives and ruin the Lord's plan." Bai Xiaowen understood in his heart that Zhao Yun was still somewhat suspicious of their motives. With his cautious nature, he would naturally want to bring Li Shi, a person without any battle prowess, along with him. This could also be considered as a kind of restraint on Bai Xiaowen. "My sworn sister is with the general. What if she encounters danger?" Bai Xiaowen purposely added. Zhao Yun straightened his back and walked toward Liu Bei's camp. Finally, he said, "As long as I'm here, no one can harm a single hair on her head." Bai Xiaowen was relieved to hear this guarantee. Zhao Yun was able to enter and exit Cao Cao's elite army 7 times while carrying the infant Ado. This time, he was going to reinforce Zhang Fei and break into the subcamp of the Yellow Turban Bandits. Protecting Li Shi was a piece of cake. Notification: frowny face. Liu Bei's army general Zhao Yun's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability level, normal. Bai Xiaowen sighed and looked at Zhao Yun, who was walking ahead. He whispered to Li Shi, his favorability has returned. Li Shi's expression was somewhat dazed. He subconsciously shook his head. While Bai Xiaowen was puzzled, Li Shi came back to his senses and whispered, "It's not returned, it's increased greatly. I just received a notification. Zhao Yun's favorability towards me has increased to 100%. Bai Xiaowen's eyes lit up. Very good. The fact that his favorability did not continue to increase to friend means that Zhao Yun is still suspicious. Once we rescue Guan Yu and Zhang Fei and defeat the Yellow Turban bandits in the south, his suspicions will be dispelled. You will definitely be able to receive his guidance." Li Shi sighed and whispered, "Then what about you? Do you still want to develop Guan Yu's line?" Chapter 97. Most of the time, people could not see the danger because they did not think about the key points. When Zhao Yun mentioned that the Yellow Turban army in the south might increase their vigilance and ask for reinforcements, Liu Bei had a sudden realization. He held Zhao Yun's hand and said, "Fortunately, Zilong reminded me. Otherwise, my brother would have been in danger." Bai Xiaowen stepped forward and said, "It's my fault that the plan was not good enough. Lord, please allow me to make up for my mistakes and go to the southeast to rescue General Guan. It's also my fault that the plan was not good enough. However, you and your sister are familiar with the terrain, so it's best for you to go with the army." Liu Bei encouraged him and immediately gave the order. Zhao Yun led the elite soldiers to the west and went to the southwest to rescue Zhang Fei. Li Yi followed him. Deputy General Zhang Chun led the army to the east and went to the southeast to rescue Guan Yu. Bai Wen followed him. Liu Bei left the camp and led the main army to follow Zhao Yun's vanguard. On the way, Bai Xiaowen used insight and looked at Deputy General Zhang Chun's attributes. Zhang Chun was a level 3 boss, so his attributes were not outstanding. Bai Xiaowen was relieved. This deputy general should not affect his plan. However, after using insight and deducting 45 points of spiritual energy, Bai Xiaowen felt a sharp pain in his left eye. Then, his eye started twitching. A notification popped up. Unknown interference. 1,000 points of spiritual energy will be deducted. Do you want to pay? It was the unknown interference again. Bai Xiaowen knew that the so-called unknown interference that could cause the notifications in the spirit world to become chaotic must have come from his left eye, the mysterious blood-red eyeball. Now that he thought about it, ever since he became an awakened, the mysterious blood-red eyeball had many peculiarities. Every time he used insight, he would deduct spiritual energy points. Bai Xiaowen had originally thought that this was a normal situation. However, when he went to the guild to search for information regarding talents, he was unable to find any similar cases. In other words, when the other awakened ones with talents used their talents, there were no cases of them having their spiritual energy points deducted. Perhaps there were special cases that Bai Xiaowen did not know about, but at least there were no records in the database of super gods. In addition, when he ate the meat of the mutated beast, the red eyeball also slightly throbbed, as if it was absorbing some kind of energy. When it defeated Ji Ming, the blood-red eyeball also took away a large amount of mana points. Can I boldly speculate that, this blood-red eyeball that led me to transmigration and gave me the gift of insight actually lacks energy? Bai Xiaowen moved forward with the army and deduced in his heart. The spirit energy points deducted every time are not deducted by the rules of the spiriters realm but eaten by the bloody eyeballs? Bai Xiaowen knew very well how powerful the blood-red eyeball was. As a matter of fact, the reason he was able to obtain the Wrath Claw's loyalty was largely due to the blood-red eyeball breaking the control of the charm tamer Ji Ming's bewitching charm. Bai Xiaowen looked at his personal interface. Killing Zhang Ying gave him 3,000 psionic points. Now, he had close to 4,000 psionic points, which was quite a lot. Understood. Bai Xiaowen chose to agree. A cool feeling surged into his left eye, and the restless left eye gradually calmed down. Bai Xiaowen's psionic points kept decreasing. Soon, 1,000 psionic points were deducted. His left eye calmed down, and the rules of the Spirit's realm prompted him. Due to unknown factors, your innate skill, insight is temporarily unavailable. Bai Xiaowen was stunned. No way, is it that bad? Bai Xiaowen felt like he had been tricked. Did they run away after taking the money? Bai Xiaowen tried to check, but all he got was unknown interference. What the F***, woof. However, Bai Xiaowen did not panic. He had a rather optimistic guess about the situation with the blood-red eyeball, and the possibility was as high as 80%. It did not matter that he could not use insight for the time being. After all, he had already collected all the information he needed. This time, there was no difference whether he had insight or not when he went to support Guan Yu. After a hasty march in the middle of the night, Zhang Chunjun finally arrived at the southeast subcamp at dawn. At that moment, the southeast subcamp was covered in dust, and corpses were strewn all over the place. Among the ruins, he could see the center of the Yellow Turban Army's camp. Groups of burly men wearing yellow turbans had formed a battle formation, and the sounds of fighting were endless. From time to time, groups of Yellow Turban Army men would rush over to provide reinforcements, and they surrounded the center of the camp. Zhang Chunjun cried out in alarm, "General Guan has fallen. Follow me, full speed ahead. We have to save General Guan." Bai Xiaowen did not say a word. He rode on Wolf King's back and followed Zhang Chunjun forward. The 4 skeleton soldiers and the newly summoned shadow assassins stood guard against each other. Zhang Chunjun formed an arrow formation and plunged into the Yellow Turban Army's formation. Bai Xiaowen rode on Wolf King and targeted an elite Yellow Turban Army sword-shielded soldier. He jumped down from Wolf King's back, and the skeleton soldiers swarmed forward, surrounding the elite sword-shielded soldier. Wolf King pounced on him and slashed him with its claws, killing him in less than 10 seconds. Bai Xiaowen's Desert Eagle was a handgun, but due to the rules of the spirit realm, the people of the other 3 realms would only use it as a powerful crossbow. Thus, he did not have to worry about its style being wrong. After absorbing the soul of the elite Yellow Turban Army sword-shielded soldier, Bai Xiaowen immediately ordered skeleton number 2 to devour it and create another skeleton sword-shielded soldier. Zhang Chunjun advanced a few dozen steps forward, and gradually began to show signs of weakness. Zhang Chunjun himself was not a valiant general who could fight against 100 men. If this continued, he would not be able to see Guan Yu. He would be surrounded by the endless stream of Yellow Turban Army soldiers first. The Yellow Turban Army soldiers still had the Fire Demon's Prayer Light and the Talisman Water's Frenzy status. This meant that Guan Yu's raid had not succeeded. Under the Frenzy status, the Yellow Turban Army refused to retreat. With the addition of the Fire Demon's Prayer Light, it was inevitable that Liu Bei's Yuzhou soldiers would suffer losses even though they were elites. Bai Xiaowen activated his mental scan and determined Guan Yu's position. "It's about time." The Wolf King Wrathclaw raised its head and howled. A layer of blood-red light suddenly spread out and covered the bodies of its allies within 100 meters. Zhang Chunjun's vision was covered in a layer of red. He was surprised to find that his strength had increased, and his speed had also increased. With 2 slashes, an elite Yellow Turban Army soldier in front of him fell to the ground. Zhang Chunjun could not help but praise, "What a powerful buff spell." Bai Xiaowen shouted, "General Zhang Chunjun, my spell's duration is limited. I've already determined General Guan's position. Please follow me." Guan Yu's position in Liu Bei's army was extremely high. Zhang Chunjun had never thought of abandoning Guan Yu. He immediately ordered his soldiers to charge with the Wolf King Wrathclaw. Chapter 98. Guan Yu looked tired. He was surrounded by a group of Yellow Turban soldiers and couldn't break through. His green dragon crescent blade had also lost its original sharpness. Bai Xiaowen quickly discovered the problem. A group of Yellow Turban Army Taoists kept casting spells on the altar. Faint rays of mind power flickered. They were taking turns to inflict negative status effects on Guan Yu. As a lord, he had a strong resistance to negative status effects. However, he couldn't withstand a continuous battle. In the distance, an old yellow turban army Taoist rode on an ox. He looked like a leader. He gestured with his hands and chanted incantations. There was a circle of elite yellow turban army soldiers guarding him. As someone who specialized in mind power, Bai Xiaowen could sense that the old Taoist's mind power was abnormally strong. The power of the incantation seemed to have enveloped the entire camp through a certain channel. He quickly understood that the old Taoist was the great doctor that Zhang Yin had mentioned. "General Guan, don't panic. Zhang Chun is here." Deputy General Zhang Chun shouted and rode forward. Before he could make a move, a group of yellow turban soldiers chopped off his horse's legs and drowned him in the crowd. As expected of Zhang Chun. How naive. Bai Xiaowen's mouth twitched. However, he still thanked Zhang Chun. "Since you helped me attract the attention of the enemy, I'll give you a share of the credit for saving Guan Yu." While Zhang Chun attracted a group of yellow turban soldiers, Bai Xiaowen led a group of summoned creatures to the altar. From this distance, he could see Guan Yu's red jujube-like face. It was so dark that his expression couldn't be seen. If someone else had been tricked by Bai Xiaowen, they would have died long ago. A group of elite yellow turban Taoists cast spells to harass Guan Yu. They cast slowing talismans, mind-draining talismans, weakening talismans, and other negative effects. Coupled with the endless stream of fearless yellow turban soldiers, even a commander-level general would have a hard time. It was already impressive that Guan Yu could stay in a stalemate without dying. Bai Xiaowen took out an A-grade item, the Thunderstorm Scroll. "Sigh, this scroll hasn't even warmed up, and I have to use it." In the next second, the lightning struck, filling the entire arena with dazzling flashes of lightning. The magnificent lightning shocked everyone. The soldiers under Liu Bei's command panicked at first, thinking that it was the yellow turban thief's witchcraft. But then they suddenly discovered that, hey, the lightning doesn't hurt me. They then looked at the yellow turban soldiers who were fighting on the opposite side. All of them had been electrocuted to the point that their mouths and eyes were crooked. They had lost control of their bowels and were unable to take care of themselves. Liu Bei's soldiers quickly reacted. After coming to their senses, the soldiers of Liu Bei's army slashed out with their sabers. The group of elite Taoists on the altar were all paralyzed within the range of the Thunderstorm Scroll. Fortunately, the Thunderstorm Scroll was mainly used for crowd control. It did not deal much damage, so their HP did not drop too quickly. A cold light flashed, and two yellow turban valiant soldiers fell to the ground. Guan Yu spurred his horse forward and passed by Bai Xiaowen. "Well done." Guan Yu was a man of few words. Bai Xiaowen knew his own difficulties. "General Guan, I can't hold on for long." After the Thunderstorm Scroll was torn, it was like a small black hole, constantly absorbing Bai Xiaowen's MP. His 13 MP was quickly sucked until only 2 MP was left. The Wrath Claw took up 10 MP. Then, it began to absorb his HP. Guan Yu nodded slightly and looked at Bai Xiaowen's pale face due to the loss of his HP. He said calmly, "Didn't you want to learn my martial arts? Watch carefully." He squeezed the horse's belly with his legs, and the horse neighed loudly. Guan Yu spurred his horse and rushed straight to the doctor, who was surrounded by a group of elite sword and shield soldiers. "This." Bai Xiaowen opened his mouth and wanted to explain the situation, but he felt that it was inappropriate. Guan Yu was trapped in the middle of the night and was saved by a nobody. He was embarrassed, and now he wanted to kill someone to show his power. If he said, "You misunderstood," at this time, it would be too discordant and spoil the atmosphere. In short, if the second master wanted to act pretentious, he would chop back the pretentiousness he had lost. Hiss! The green dragon crescent blade dragged across the ground, leaving a trail of sparks on the stone floor of the central camp. With Guan Yu's charge, a strong murderous intent continued to rise. The doctor and his elite sword and shield soldiers were far away from the altar, so they were not affected by the Thunderstorm Scroll. Seeing Guan Yu rush over, the sword and shield soldiers raised their shields as if they were facing a great enemy. The doctor also opened up a demonic power shield. However, it was of no use. He suddenly raised the green dragon crescent blade, and the hilt hit the throat of an elite sword and shield soldier. Under the impact of the 60-point strength, the elite sword and shield soldier's eyes bulged, and he was thrown into the air like a small stone. Guan Yu used this momentum to hold the blade with both hands and suddenly swung it down. Wherever the cold light passed, blood spurted out. A yellow horse passed by, and an old head covered in wrinkles flew into the sky. Bai Xiaowen was stunned. The moment Guan Yu killed the general, an overbearing aura of taking the head of a general from an army of millions filled his vision. This was the violent release of murderous intent after it reached its peak. Notification: due to Guan Yu's initiative, you have received the corresponding skill information. Guan Yu's unparalleled skill, Absolute Kill, has been activated. Absolute Kill: mark an enemy, and when charging towards the target, receive a comprehensive increase in attack power, critical hit rate, and critical hit damage. The faster the movement speed, the higher the bonus. Attack power can be stacked to a maximum of 200%, critical hit rate can be stacked to a maximum of 100%, and critical hit damage can be stacked to a maximum of 400%. The bonus effect will disappear after Guan Yu attacks the target for the first time. Guan Yu's Lord skill, Heavy Blade, has been activated. Heavy Blade, passive skill. Guan Yu ignores 40% of the enemy's armor. The first attack on the target for absolute kill ignores the opponent's defense. Guan Yu's battle skill, Furious Slash, has been activated. Furious Slash: Guan Yu swings his broadsword in an attempt to kill a target, inflicting heavy damage, and has a certain chance of killing the opponent. The series of notifications made Bai Xiaowen's jaw drop. Guan Yu dragged his broadsword behind him and turned his horse around. The Yellow Turban Army, who were originally unafraid of death, couldn't help but retreat when they saw Guan Yu, who was like a god of death. The death of the highly skilled doctor caused their frenzied state and the effects of the fire demon's blessing to disappear instantly. Fear, cowardice, humility, pain, these negative emotions and feelings that they had forcibly forgotten returned to their bodies. Guan Yu rode his horse to Bai Xiaowen as if there was no one else around. He looked down at him from above, and his eyes returned to their half-closed state. Did you see it clearly? Another notification came. You have received guidance from the Lord-level expert, Guan Yu. Your battle skill, Berate, has mutated, and a new skill, Deterrence, has been created. You can also choose to give up on Deterrence, and keep the original, Berate, skill. Deterrence: your deterrence will create a deterrent effect on all enemies around you, causing them to enter a state of fear. All attributes will be reduced by 5%. The casting range is determined by your spirit. The duration of the state of fear is determined by the ratio of both parties' attributes. 2-star skill. Chapter 99. Bai Xiaowen looked at the description of the new skill, Deterrence. It's changed from a single target control skill to a group control skill, and it also has a weakening effect. It's evolved from a 1-star skill to a 2-star skill, and its priority has increased by 1 level. For a control skill, this is a very tempting upgrade. Bai Xiaowen looked at the details of the skill. Deterrence also had its shortcomings. Its cooldown time was 5 minutes, and its cost of mental strength had increased to 4 points. However, Bai Xiaowen still chose Deterrence. The flaws couldn't obscure the beauty of the skill. The power of a mutated skill was not just a little bit stronger, and its cooldown time and cost were worth it. Combat skills were more precious than equipment. A powerful combat skill was hard to come by for an awakened. As an awakened continued to level up and become stronger, their equipment would definitely be upgraded, but their skills were rarely replaced. On one hand, the drop rate of skill books was very low. On the other hand, combat skills would be upgraded as the awakened strength increased. From level 1 to level 10, their power would become stronger and stronger. When awakened first learned a combat skill, it would usually be at level 1 unless it was specifically stated. Upgrading a skill required a lot of effort. If Awaken wanted to change a skill, it would mean that all their previous efforts had been wasted. Guan Yu said calmly, I have always been clear about gratitude and grudges. You wanted my guidance, and now that I've given you my guidance, we don't owe each other anything. However, your path is different from mine. Even if I try my best to teach you, you'll only be able to learn the basics. Bai Xiaowen coughed and said shyly, General Guan, you misunderstand. The one who needs guidance isn't me, but my adopted sister. My combat path has already been determined, but my adopted sister still has a lot of room for improvement. General Guan, do you think you should teach her while you're at it? Guan Yu's face twitched, and he decided to ignore Bai Xiaowen. He turned his horse around and left. He raised his sword and killed the Yellow Turban Army along the way. The Yellow Turban Army's morale was low, and they didn't have a backbone. Under the charge of a fierce general like Guan Yu, they retreated, and it didn't take long for them to retreat. Even though there were captain-level Yao artmasters, deputy generals, and others who tried to organize an army to fight against Guan Yu, under the tide of defeat, they could not do anything alone. Bai Xiaowen sneaked to the corpse of the Yellow Turban Army doctor. He tried to take out the Book of Spells and placed it 3 feet away from the doctor's body. He wanted the Book of Spells to absorb the demon energy, but there was no reaction. The Black Soul Stone was the same. There was no option to absorb souls. After asking the Banshee Delifa, Bai Xiaowen found out that there was a prerequisite for the Black Soul Stone to absorb the souls of powerhouses. Bai Xiaowen had to contribute a considerable amount of kills. Bai Xiaowen thought for a moment and understood. It looked like the Book of Incantations was similar to the Black Soul Stone in that it could not be used as a shortcut. It had to be a Yellow Turban Army demon art master that Bai Xiaowen had killed in order to have their Yao power absorbed. After putting away the Book of Incantations, Bai Xiaowen led a group of summoned creatures into the battlefield. He specifically chose elite Yellow Turban Army swordsmen, Taoist priests, and even captain-level Yao art masters to surround and kill. With the 2 skeleton swordsmen, Bai Xiaowen had 2 more skills that could interrupt attacks. Once the skeleton swordsmen got close to those who were weak and could not pass the shield bash test, they were basically doomed. Liu Bei's main army also entered the battlefield and joined the battle. This battle lasted from dawn to noon. The blood of the Southeast Vice camp flowed like a river. More than half of the Yellow Turban Army soldiers were killed or injured. Some fled into the forest, while others fled to other camps. The 2 neighboring camps of the Southeast Vice Camp, the East Main Camp and the South Main Camp, also sent out reinforcements after receiving the news. However, the Southeast Vice Camp lost the support of the doctor's demonic arts. The reinforcements of the Yellow Turban Army that entered the camp were in a weakened state. They could not stop the ferocious Yuzhou elite soldiers. At the same time, Zhao Yun, who went to save Zhang Fei, also achieved victory. Zhang Fei's killing of the doctor also caused the collapse of the Yellow Turban Army in the Southwest Vice Camp. After the 2 vanguards defeated the Yellow Turban Army in the Southeast and Southwest Vice Camps, they charged toward the South Main Camp. The doctor of the South Main Camp had already fled under the protection of a group of deputy generals. He took a detour and headed north. At this point, the seemingly indestructible blockade of the Yellow Turban Army in the South Main Camp had completely collapsed. Liu Bei's army was unimpeded. They entered Shuzhou City and were finally able to rest and reorganize. Bai Xiaowen had also gained a lot from this battle. He had killed 3 Yellow Turban Army elite heavy armored sword shield soldiers in the midst of the chaos, allowing the 4 skeleton soldiers to complete the transformation into skeleton sword shield soldiers. In addition, the Yellow Turban Army elite Taoists were also Bai Xiaowen's main targets. He killed 4 of them in total. They were all killed by the skeleton swordsman's shield bash. The Book of Spells' demonic energy had soared and reached 80%. The Black Soul Stone's growth rate had also increased to 23 soul essence. The 7 silver treasure chests gave Bai Xiaowen a total of 2,100 soul points. It was a pity that the combat evaluation was only C rank. There was only one chance to draw a dog tag, and there was still a high chance of drawing a dog tag. In the end, the 7 treasure chests only gave Bai Xiaowen 2 items other than 5 dog tags. One of the items was a chicken drumstick. It was a type of food. After eating it, it could restore 30 HP. Bai Xiaowen was happy that he could eat it during a battle. The effect of restoring 30 HP was quite good. More importantly, food and HP potion did not affect each other. They could be used in the same battle. The other item was an elite blue shield. Bai Xiaowen glanced at its attributes. Vitality +3, armor +8. Bai Xiaowen was about to categorize it as unusable, ready to disassemble. However, when he took a closer look, he realized that it was bound after equipping. This shield is worth at least 500 contribution points in the guild storage. I've made a small profit. Bai Xiaowen was delighted and put it into his inventory. In the Super Gods, many members would often ask for contribution points to exchange for items in the guild storage. Sometimes, a single contribution point could be sold for tens of thousands of dollars. However, very few people would sell it. This showed the value of guild contribution points. 7 elites in total, and only this much dropped. In order to obtain combat ratings and draw chances, I'll have to hunt more leader bosses or high-level elites in the future. Bai Xiaowen sighed. Compared to the wilderness, the spiritual realm was better in that there were many elites and leader bosses. Bai Xiaowen's battle had increased the Black Soul Stone's growth rate by more than 20 points. In the wilderness, it would take at least 2 months of continuous exploration. However, the spiritual realm was more dangerous and required a ticket to enter. In the past 2 times, Bai Xiaowen did not need a ticket because of his class advancement quest and party items. However, there would not be such a good thing in the future. Chapter 100. I've completed my class advancement quest. Li Shi's first sentence made Bai Xiaowen a bit confused. What? Zhao Yun, he taught you already? Li Shi nodded her head. I understand now. Zhao Yun brought me with him. On one hand, it was to protect me. On the other hand, it was to secretly guide me. After I watched the entire battle from his side, I received a notification from the spirit realm. I can complete my class advancement at any time. I really didn't expect this. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. Little Zhuge, you're always so calculating. Is there anything you can't think of? Li Shi was in a very good mood and joked. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, what I didn't expect was that Guan Yu and Zhao Yun, although they seem to have very different personalities, both of them have a bit of a tsundere in their bones. Take Zhao Yun for example. He's clearly very grateful to you and already wants to give you pointers, but he still keeps you by his side as a hostage. Li Shi smiled and said, that seems to be the case. But, why is Guan Yu so tsundere? He has a 2-foot-long beard. Isn't he a real man? Bai Xiaowen suddenly shushed him. At the corner of the corridor, the 9-foot-tall and 2-foot-long beard of the future, Guan Yu, appeared expressionlessly. When he passed by Bai Xiaowen, Guan Yu stretched out his hand and handed Bai Xiaowen an old silk book. We're even. After Bai Xiaowen took the silk book, Guan Yu didn't say anything else. After saying these 2 words, he directly left. Spirit Realm notification, Liu Bei's Army General Guan Yu's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability level, friend. You received a special item, Spring and Autumn Saber Technique, incomplete. After reading this item, it's equivalent to receiving pointers from Guan Yu. Number of uses, 1/1. This item is bound to the party and cannot be traded. Looking at Guan Yu walking away as if Bai Xiaowen owed him millions, Bai Xiaowen coughed and said, well, do you understand now? Li Shi held back his laughter and nodded vigorously. You haven't submitted the quest yet, have you? Bai Xiaowen asked. Yeah, not yet. Phew, that's good. Bai Xiaowen handed the special item Spring and Autumn Saber Technique, incomplete, to Li Shi. Use it. This way, the completion rate of your class advancement mission should be very high. What about you? Li Shi asked. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. I've already received guidance from Guan Yu, so I can't use this item. Besides, even if I could use it, it wouldn't be as beneficial as if you could. Li Shi nodded, convinced. The two walked along the corridor and returned to the quiet room. Li Shi read the silk book carefully. After asking Bai Xiaowen, he chose to complete the class advancement mission. How's the completion rate? Bai Xiaowen's eyes had a hint of expectation. Li Shi closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and opened them again. There seemed to be mist floating in her eyes. Perfect! Li Shi hugged Bai Xiaowen tightly. He could feel her soft and plump breasts through the tight fabric. Xiaowen, thank you for helping me fulfill my dream and giving me a more exciting life. Li Shi's eyes were red, and his soft lips gently kissed Bai Xiaowen's cheek. Bai Xiaowen's lower abdomen heated up, and his lust was aroused. He unceremoniously hugged Li Shi and pressed his lips against hers. Li Shi was a little dazed. His mesmerizing eyes squinted lazily like a cat's. His lips were sucked, and his teeth were pried open by Bai Xiaowen. He was making incomprehensible moans. Li Shi didn't come to his senses until he felt a throbbing sensation under her bra. Ah! He gave Bai Xiaowen a hard push. Ah, sorry, my hand slipped. Bai Xiaowen's face was slightly red. He pretended that nothing had happened and retracted his hand. He hid it behind his back and secretly scratched the air, savoring the wonderful softness of her breasts. Li Shi glared at Bai Xiaowen. Do you want to die? Don't you know where you are? We're foster siblings. Bai Xiaowen blushed with shame. My fault, my fault. Men fell in love because of lust, and women fell in love because of lust. Men were good at thinking with their lower bodies. Once they took off their pants, they didn't care about anything else. Women, on the other hand, often retained some rationality when they were in a state of delirium. However, under the interpretation of Bai Xiaowen's super brain, Li Shi's words just now meant that this place wasn't good enough. When they returned to the Earth dimension. He. After all, Li Shi didn't care about his groping. He just said that this place wasn't right. Wasn't that obvious enough? Li Shi tidied up his clothes slightly. His pretty face was still a little red. I have a total of 3 professions to choose from, all of which are elite. The third profession is a unique profession that appeared after completing the perfect evaluation. Its attribute growth is 9 points per level. It's almost comparable to the hero profession. Well, this profession should be rare elite? A term suddenly popped up in Bai Xiaowen's mind. My profession growth is only 11 points per level. Let's look at the profession's skill introduction. If it's about right, I'll choose this one. Li Shi set the introductions of the 3 professions to exhibition mode. The first profession was called Phantom Killer. Its skill was Ghostly Steps. It automatically became invisible in the shadows. It could use the shadows to jump short distances. The second profession was called Storm Swordsman. Its skill was Wind Chaser. When equipped with a one-handed weapon, its attack speed was increased by 30%. The third profession was called Storm Swordsman. Its skill was Storm Combo. Each time it successfully hit its opponent, it would receive a combo effect. It could be stacked up to 10 times. Each combo effect could increase its attack speed by 2% and its critical strike rate by 2%. These are all elite professions? Bai Xiaowen was a little envious. Why do I feel that they're better than my hero profession? Alas, the professions rewarded in the highly difficult dimension are indeed very strong. The profession's skills look more powerful, but they're still not as good as the hero profession, Li Shi said. The hero profession's strength lies in its additional combat skill column and the priority of its skills. Bai Xiaowen chuckled. In fact, he was very satisfied with the psychic teacher profession. Ahem, let's use the elimination method and eliminate the first assassin class. Then the question is, should we choose the Storm Swordsman with the constant attack speed bonus, or the Storm Swordsman with the growth speed bonus and the critical hit bonus? Chapter 101. Li Shi obviously preferred the second profession, the Storm Swordsman. She didn't think highly of the third profession, the Storm Swordsman, which only appeared when the profession was perfect. From the description of the profession's skills, the Storm Swordsman did not have any obvious advantages. Unlike Bai Xiaowen, the third profession, the Psychic Master, appeared when the profession was perfect. It completely crushed the other two professions. She didn't need to think about how to choose. Since it's a rare elite profession that only appears when it's perfect, the profession's skills are definitely not useless. The duration of the Storm combo is definitely not short. It's enough for you to stack it up. In addition, your evaluation of the benefits of the critical hit bonus is a little too low. Bai Xiaowen could see that Li Shi's talent, Battle Zeal, had yet to be activated. Naturally, she knew which profession was the most advantageous for her. After all, there's a limit to attack speed. When it's stacked up to a certain extent, the benefits will be greatly reduced. Critical hit is a very important secondary attribute. Once triggered, 1 slash is equivalent to 2 slashes of damage. Furthermore, DPS players who specialize in agility can easily hit vital points, resulting in instant kills. There are also some special skills that increase critical hit damage. The combination of these two is even more powerful. Therefore, I suggest you choose the Storm Swordsman. I don't have any ability to increase my attack speed now. I'm still far from the limit of my attack speed. Li Shi smiled. However, since Xiaowen said the third profession is good, I'll choose it. With a flash of light that only the awakened could see, Li Shi successfully completed the profession change. Phew, the profession change is a success. I've received 5 free attribute points as a reward. Li Shi looked at her personal interface and suddenly exclaimed, "Eh? I actually have a talent?" Bai Xiaowen snickered and said seriously, "It seems that under the influence of a super genius like me, you've successfully evolved into a genius girl. Not bad, not bad." Li Shi was very excited. To her, this was simply a double blessing. In the Psionic era, only a small number of people had a talent ability. Awakened ones without talent often put in double the effort, but their achievements were not necessarily comparable to those with talent. After successfully changing classes, Li Shi's talent was finally activated. She carefully studied her talent, Battle Zeal, and said in surprise, "Xiaowen, my talent seems to be very powerful. It's not a trash talent." Bai Xiaowen coughed and pretended to look at it. He said, "Yes, it complements your Zephyr Swordsman class perfectly. Next, when you choose your combat skills, try your best to consider skills with multi-phase attack judgment. Strive to be able to stack all 10 layers of passive talents and class passive effects in the shortest time possible. This will greatly increase your combat power." Li Shi looked at Bai Xiaowen carefully for a while and said, "Fortunately, you let me choose the third profession. Xiaowen, did you activate some kind of foresight ability? I feel that you've changed a lot compared to before." A drop of cold sweat appeared on the back of Bai Xiaowen's head. He hurriedly interrupted, "That's enough. There's no such thing as foresight. Don't you have 5 free attribute points? Let's add them first." When Bai Xiaowen changed classes to the hero class, he was rewarded with 10 free attribute points. The elite class only gave him 5 points. As for the standard class, sorry, he didn't get any. Li Shi checked the attribute distribution for the Zephyr Swordsman. Every time she leveled up, she would gain 2 points of strength, 4 points of agility, 2 points of constitution, and 1 point of spirit. A total of 9 points of growth. She deserved the title of Rare Elite. After discussing with Bai Xiaowen, Li Shi first invested 2 points in agility, pushing the basic agility to 10 points. The remaining 3 points were all invested in constitution. Melee classes still needed survivability. With this, Li Shi's attributes became 5 points of strength, 10 points of agility, 7 points of constitution, and 4 points of spirit. Li Shi, who had successfully changed classes and activated his talent, looked radiant. He wore a ceremonial rapier at his waist, and his every movement was brimming with confidence. The mission has a total of 10 days, and we've only used 3. We have less than 7 days left. We have to make good use of it, Li Shi said. Yes. Although the Yellow Turban Army was defeated, their main force is still alive. There's still a big battle to come, so this is a good opportunity to earn rewards. Bai Xiaowen showed the A-grade book of curses to Li Shi. Also, I've completed 80% of the first 2 steps of the chain mission. Although there's no time limit, it's best to complete it in the 3 Kingdoms plane. Li Shi nodded in understanding. After leaving the 3 Kingdoms plane, where would Bai Xiaowen find the Yellow Turban Army's warlock? There was a knock on the door of the meditation room. A servant came to report that Mi Zhu was waiting for the 2 heroes to meet him. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi couldn't afford to be negligent in front of the secretary of the provincial party committee. They followed the servant through the corridor to the provincial governor's residence, where they met Mi Zhu again. The 2 of you really broke through the Yellow Turban Army's blockade. You even helped Lord Xuanda defeat the Yellow Turban Army and save Shuzhou City. Previously, I was still suspicious of the 2 of you. Now that I think about it, I feel ashamed. Mi Zhu's attitude was much more sincere than the last time they met. Bai Xiaowen's reputation of asking for money was finally restored. Mi Zhu clapped his hands, and a servant came forward with a tray of silver ingots. Notification: the Tao Qianjun's high official Mi Zhu's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability level, friend. You received a valuable item, Snow White silver ingots x20. Bai Xiaowen checked the information. Snow White silver ingots were different from the normal silver ingots they had asked for. They could be brought out of the 3 Kingdoms plane and used as currency in other planes. They could also be exchanged for soul energy points. They could also be used as gifts to increase the favorability of people in the spirit realm. Sir, what orders do you have for us? Bai Xiaowen asked. Mi Zhu definitely wouldn't give them silver ingots for no reason. Although it could be considered a reward for breaking through the siege, Liu Bei's army's Jian Yong had helped him decipher the notes. Mi Zhu said, I heard that the 2 of you have joined Lord Xuanda's forces. I have something to ask of you. Bai Xiaowen glanced over and saw 2 servants of the Mi family standing guard at the entrance of the courtyard. It was obvious that Mi Zhu's request was very important. Sir, please speak. Mi Zhu took out a secret letter from his sleeve and handed it to Bai Xiaowen. I hope that the 2 of you can secretly pass this letter to Lord Xuanda. After you succeed, I will reward you handsomely. Notification: Frowny Face Side Mission 1, open the secret letter. Mission objective: pass Mi Zhu's secret letter to Liu Bei. Mission reward: refined gold ingots x10. Mission difficulty: rank C. Then, another grand notification of the spirit realm's laws rang in Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi's ears. Chapter 102. Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes at Mi Zhu as he read the thin letter. Mi Zhu smiled wholeheartedly. The Yellow Scarf Bandits have retreated? Suddenly, Bai Xiaowen asked out of the blue. Mi Zhu's smile faded slightly, revealing a surprised expression. He hesitated for a moment before nodding. The news of the Yellow Scarf Bandits' retreat came from a spy outside the city. Even I only found out about it an hour ago. How did little brother Bai find out? Bai Xiaowen calmly said, there are 2 reasons. First, the Yellow Scarf Bandits lost 2 great doctors and their southern defense line collapsed, greatly weakening their strength. On the other hand, our 2 sides have just joined up and our strength has greatly increased. Under these circumstances, it's reasonable for the Yellow Scarf Bandits to want to retreat. Li Shi sat across from Bai Xiaowen with a sullen expression. He didn't say a word, but he looked at Mi Zhu with a trace of sympathy. Based on her experience, Bai Xiaowen should have already started bluffing. What's the second reason? Miju asked curiously. Second, from Lord Mi's actions, I can see that Shujo City's current situation is delicate. With Lord Mi's status, it shouldn't be difficult for him to meet my lord. Why would he write a secret letter for an unfamiliar person like me to deliver? Bai Xiaowen calmly said, it's obvious that my lord is a powerful dragon crossing the river. His arrival has touched the nerves of a local snake. The premise for internal strife is that the external threat has disappeared, so I believe that the yellow scarf bandits have retreated. Now, even Lord Mi has to be careful in order to avoid the attention of this local snake. He didn't hesitate to spend a lot of money to send me a letter. Bai Xiaowen snorted and directly rejected Miju's secret letter. He then stood up and said coldly, do I look like a petty and foolish person in Lord Mi's eyes? You're using money to humiliate me. His words were powerful and resonating. Miju sighed. It's his little brother, Bai said. Tao Gongzu is muddle-headed and incompetent. He doesn't have the ambition to help the world, nor does he have the ability to protect the people. He's just an old local snake. Shujo is a place that military strategists must fight for. Without a powerful dragon guarding it, it will fall into the hands of the yellow scarf bandits sooner or later and no longer belong to the Great Han. Bai Xiaowen coughed. Lord Mi wants to rely on my lord, right? Yes. Since Bai Xiaowen had already seen through him, Miju no longer kept him in suspense. My Mi family can be considered wealthy in Shujo, and we have good relations with the Zhang and Chen clans. We've long been dissatisfied with Tao Gongzu. As long as Duke Xuanda nods his head, Su Province can change its banner overnight and become Duke Xuanda's base. Pausing for a moment, Miju continued, Little brother Bai, now that you know about this, you should understand the importance of this matter. Please deliver this letter to Duke Xuanda personally. I am willing to reward you with a valuable treasure. At this moment, the Spirit Realm's notification sounded again. Side Mission Step 1. Mission. Mission Difficulty, B. Mission Objective, deliver Miju's letter to Liu Bei. Mission Reward, Refined Gold Ingot X10, Remnant Page of the Book of Duplication. Remnant Page of the Book of Duplication, B+ Grade Item. Can duplicate other items, B or below, and turn them into the same item as the target. Miju originally didn't want Bai Xiaowen to know the inside story. He only wanted to be a courier, so the mission reward was naturally much lower. Now that Bai Xiaowen already knew the inside story, Miju had no choice but to raise his bargaining chip. Lord Mi's treasure doesn't seem complete. Bai Xiaowen's eyes lit up when he saw the Book of Duplication's properties. But when he saw the words remnant page and the grade restriction, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. B or below grade items weren't worth much. Miju said, Little brother Bai, as long as you actively contact the Mi family and Lord Xuanda, you'll be able to obtain more remnant pages and piece them together to form a complete treasure. Bai Xiaowen was secretly satisfied. He nodded and smiled. Since Lord Mi wants to rely on my lord, then we're family. It's my duty to deliver the letter. Lord Mi used money to humiliate me. You've really underestimated me. Oh, how many remnant pages can be pieced together to form a complete treasure? 3 portions, Miju said. Bai Xiaowen chuckled. He took the letter and placed it in his storage space. Li Shi looked at Bai Xiaowen with adoration. After leaving the courtyard, Li Shi couldn't help but laugh. Xiaowen, I really don't know how long it'll take for me to be as thick-skinned as you. Bai Xiaowen clicked his tongue. Miju tried to order me around like a courier, so of course I had to teach him a lesson. But this little counterattack has earned me a pretty good reward. Bai Xiaowen clicked his tongue. When you rejected the mission to deliver the letter, I was really worried. I didn't expect that the mission would still end with a B+ grade item. Xiaowen, I don't understand. Is talking really that useful? Bai Xiaowen smiled and said seriously, every spirit world character has their own thoughts and schemes. They're very different from the NPCs in traditional video games. The rules of the spirit world won't interfere with these characters' independent thinking. From a fair point of view, they generate missions and rewards based on our interactions with the spirit world characters. So when you accept a mission, you have to be careful and try to get as many rewards as possible. The two of them walked all the way to Liu Bei's camp. Along the way, they discussed the newly triggered historical plot, the three concessions to Shuzhou. In the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Tao Qian didn't give Shuzhou to Liu Bei willingly, Bai Xiaowen analyzed. At least the first two concessions were more of a test. Tao Qian isn't a lonely old man with a pair of sons. Why didn't he give Shuzhou to his sons but to an outsider? Who was he testing? Liu Bei? Li Shi asked. But if Liu Bei took the Shuzhou seal without hesitation, Tao Qian would be in trouble. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, of course, Tao Qian wasn't testing Liu Bei. He was sure that Liu Bei wouldn't take the seal. You know, Liu Bei developed from a straw sandal seller to where he is today by virtue of benevolence and righteousness. Anything that damages Liu Bei's reputation is tantamount to cutting off his roots. You see, in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Tao Qian gave up Su province twice. The first time was when Cao Cao's army was nearby, and the second time was when Cao Cao had just retreated. If Liu Bei took the seal, he would inevitably have the reputation of looting a burning house. At the very least, he would be demanding favors. Chapter 103. Li Shi asked, then what should we do about this historical plot? Are you going to support Liu Bei and make the show real and occupy Su province? Bai Xiaowen shook his head. The plot of giving up Shuzhou 3 times takes too long. Not all the rich families in Shuzhou support Liu Bei. Tao Qian has been in business for a long time. Even if he doesn't have much ability, he should have a group of followers. Mi Zhu's careful delivery of the letter is proof of this. In the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Tao Qian had to give up Shuzhou for the sake of his descendants before he died. How can we wait for him to die? We should take advantage of these few days to gain some benefits and find some missions with good rewards. When they arrived at the post house where Liu Bei's army was stationed, Bai Xiaowen quickly met with Liu Bei. After handing over the spoils of war from the southern front, 5 elite Yellow Turban army tokens, Bai Xiaowen received a notification from the spirit realm. Your reputation in Liu Bei's army has increased. Your position in Liu Bei's army has been promoted. You are now in charge of the Fan Gate. Liu Bei's army was small, so he was promoted quickly. Even Li Shi was promoted to captain. Bai Xiaowen presented Mi Zhu's secret letter and briefly explained Mi Zhu's request. Just as Bai Xiaowen expected, Liu Bei stamped his feet and sighed after reading Michigan Zhu's letter. Zizhong, you've misled me. Are you trying to make me a heartless and unjust person? Bai Xiaowen tried to persuade him. My lord is a member of the Han dynasty and has elite soldiers under his command. The only thing he lacks is a foundation. Tao Qian is too weak to guard Shuzhou. Why don't you let my lord take over? This way, he can bring order to the country and protect the people. If Bai Xiaowen was just a courier, Liu Bei definitely wouldn't have discussed the matter of Shuzhou with him. Otherwise, wouldn't he be setting Mi Zhu up? But now that Bai Xiaowen knew the inside story, his words weren't too abrupt. This was the benefit of digging into the plot. He could deeply participate in the historical plot. Liu Bei was enraged. Why do you say that? My way of life is based on faith and righteousness. You may not know this, but when I met with Prefect Tao just now, Prefect Tao offered me the Shuzhou City tablet seal right in front of my face. I firmly refused to accept it, and I definitely wouldn't do something like seizing it. Bai Xiaowen pretended to be terrified. My lord, your benevolence and righteousness are unparalleled. I have been rude. Liu Bei's expression changed very quickly. He immediately regained his gentle smile and advised, you should use your skills for the right path. Although the Yellow Turban bandits have retreated, they may come back at any time. The threat is still there. We must be careful. Bai Xiaowen bowed and said, my lord, wherever the Yellow Turban bandits go, it is like a swarm of locusts passing through, the people are plunged into misery and suffering. If they were allowed to escape to Qingzhou and Yenzhou, who knew how many people would suffer? This general believes that we should send elite troops to cut off the Yellow Turban Bandits' path of return. Liu Bei thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. You are right. I will carefully consider this matter. First, help me send this letter to Mi Zizhong. Advise him to restrain his thoughts and not act rashly. Liu Bei immediately wrote a secret letter and handed it to Bai Xiaowen. Notification, Side Mission 1, secret letter completed. Bai Xiaowen brought Liu Bei's letter with him and paid a visit to Mizhu. Along the way, Bai Xiaowen scanned with his mind and vaguely discovered that there were people secretly following them. They were most likely spies under Governor Tao Qian's residence. The situation is a bit tense. Even two unfamiliar people like us are being followed, Bai Xiaowen said in a low voice. There is not much profit to be gained from doing these errands. I plan to do something big again, and then I'll leave. Li Shi nodded. She was a bit nervous and excited at the same time. After all, Tao Qian's army and Liu Bei's army hadn't completely fallen out. Although they sent people to follow them, they wouldn't commit murder in public and assassinate Liu Bei's men. Furthermore, Bai Xiaowen's position wasn't high, so they didn't send too many people to follow them. Bai Xiaowen took a few detours to get rid of the spies. He quietly entered the Mi residence through the small door in the backyard and met with Mi Zhu again. General Bai is truly trustworthy. After his promotion, Mi Zhu changed the way he addressed Bai Xiaowen. He was promoted from little brother to general. A notification came from the spirit realm. You received 10 refined gold ingots. You received 1 remnant page of the Book of Duplication. Bai Xiaowen whispered, Lord Mi, my lord isn't willing to take over Su province. I advise you to be careful. This is my lord's reply. After reading the reply, Mi Zhu sighed, Lord Xuanda is unparalleled in his benevolence and righteousness. He already has the intention to leave. But the people of Su province are in a place of war. What should they do? Bai Xiaowen shook his head. Lord Mi, don't worry. As long as the bandits of Su province still exist, my lord can't leave to protect the people. Mi Zhu said, but the Yellow Turban bandits have already retreated and will soon enter Qing province. At that time, Tao Gongzu won't be a threat and won't ask Lord Xuanda to stay. Lord Mi, what if the Yellow Turban bandits can't return to Qing province? Bai Xiaowen whispered. Mi Zhu's expression changed slightly. Bai Xiaowen recalled the military map he saw in Liu Bei's tent. If the Yellow Turban bandits want to go north, they have to cross the Yellow River. Luan Ferry is their only escape route. If a group of elite soldiers suddenly attack Luan Ferry and destroy the ferry and set the boats on fire, how will they escape? Mi Zhu frowned and thought for a long time. Luan Ferry is the throat of the Yellow Turban bandits. It won't be easy to take it down. Moreover, Lord Xuanda might not be willing to do this with great fanfare. Guan, Zhang, and the other generals won't be so easily dispatched. Bai Xiaowen said proudly, why would we need a fierce general to do this? I'll go back and report to my lord that I'm willing to lead a small group of elite soldiers to attack Luan. Mi Zhu said cheerfully, it's great that General Bai is willing to go. If it's successful, I'll reward you handsomely. Side Mission 2, Attack Luan begins. Mission Objective, destroy the basic facilities of Luan Ferry and set the boats on fire. Mission Time Limit, 3 days. Mission Difficulty, S. Mission Reward, 2 remnant pages of the Book of Duplication, 50 refined gold ingots. Mi Zhu, Unknown Reward, Liu Bei. Bai Xiaowen's expression was calm, but his heart was in turmoil. He had indeed wanted to do something big, but this business was so big that it was still a little unexpected. It was an S-rank mission. It was even harder than Bai Xiaowen's class change mission. Bai Xiaowen was now a level 2 awakened. His strength had skyrocketed. However, the difficulty of the Spirit Realm mission was based on the level of the successor. This mission to attack Luan was extremely difficult for a level 2 awakened. The slightest mistake could cost him his life. Chapter 104. Along the way, Li Shi pondered for a while, then said, Mi Zhu said that Liu Bei isn't willing to attack Luan Ferry with great fanfare. Is it because he's afraid that once he sends out his main forces, his forces in Shuzhou City will be too weak and Tao Qian will take advantage of the situation? Bai Xiaowen nodded. What you said makes sense, but that's not the main reason. The Three Kingdoms plain advocates trust. Before Liu Bei shows any intention of taking over Shuzhou, Tao Qian won't attack without reason. After all, Liu Bei has rendered meritorious service in saving Shuzhou. After a pause, Bai Xiaowen said, attacking Luan and cutting off the Yellow Turban Army's path of retreat would give Liu Bei another reason to stay in Shuzhou. He'd definitely be happy to see this happen, but this will also allow the Yellow Turban bandits to roam Shuzhou and harm the people. If Liu Bei sends out Guan Zhang and other generals to attack Luan with great fanfare, wouldn't it be too obvious that he's raising bandits for his own sake? It wouldn't be beneficial for him to take over Shuzhou in the future. Li Shi understood. After thinking it over, he smiled. When the Yellow Turban bandits start to harm the people of Shuzhou, Tao Qian's army probably won't be able to deal with them. In the end, Liu Bei's army will have to come out and suppress the bandits to win the hearts of the people. That's completely correct. Bai Xiaowen nodded. He thought to himself that Li Shi had grown quite a bit during his many adventures. Not only had his strength increased, but his vision and thinking had also improved. When he saw Liu Bei again, all of the generals were present. Bai Xiaowen explained his plan to attack Luan Harbor. Of course, out of consideration for Liu Bei's face, Bai Xiaowen didn't give the reason of raising bandits for his own sake. Instead, he gave the reason of cutting off the bandits' path of retreat and preventing them from attacking other provinces and counties. As for whether or not this would harm Shuzhou, Liu Bei's subordinates tacitly agreed not to mention it. Just as Mi Zhu had guessed, Liu Bei said that he needed to rest and reorganize after the battle, so he wasn't willing to send out generals to attack Luan. This was to be expected. If Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, or Zhao Yun had gone with him, the difficulty of the mission would have been lowered to B rank. How could there still be an S rank evaluation? In the end, Liu Bei sent Deputy General Zhang Chun to lead 300 elite troops to assist Bai Xiaowen in the surprise attack. Liu Bei held Bai Xiaowen's hand and earnestly warned him, "You must be very careful when you go there. You must not leak any information to avoid arousing the Yellow Turban thieves' vigilance." Bai Xiaowen understood and said, "Don't worry, my lord. General Zhang Chun and I will order the soldiers under our command to disguise themselves. We won't raise our banners and will march in the name of Shuzhou's heroes. As for Shuzhou City, please also issue an order to keep it a secret, lest the news be leaked." Li Shi could also tell that the two were speaking in riddles. He despised Big Ear Lu's act of pretending to be a prostitute and pretending to be chaste. After the meeting, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi ran into Zhao Yun when they were rushing to the military camp. Zhao Yun's figure was still straight and handsome. He slightly cupped his hands in greeting. "General Zhao." Bai Xiaowen also cupped his hands in greeting. Zhao Yun smiled warmly. "Your surprise attack on Hunan is like pulling a tooth from a tiger's mouth. It's very dangerous. Without my lord's orders, I can't accompany you. You must be very careful." Li Shi saluted and said softly, "Thank you for your concern, General Zhao." Zhao Yun shook his head and said to Li Shi, "Give me your hand." Li Shi extended his right hand, somewhat puzzled. Zhao Yun also extended his hand, which was covered by a silver gauntlet, and grasped Li Shi's hand tightly. "If Ah Wei was still here, she would probably be about your age," Zhao Yun softly muttered, a trace of disappointment flashing across his face. Then, he smiled warmly and said, "Take care." Bai Xiaowen and Zhang Chun stared blankly at Zhao Yun's departing figure for a while. Bai Xiaowen said, "Did you hear what Zhao Yun muttered just now?" Li Shi came back to his senses and nodded. "I heard it. Who's Ah Wei?" Bai Xiaowen recalled the information and shook his head. "There's no such person in the romance of the Three Kingdoms, and there's no such person in the official history. I do remember that in a game of the Three Kingdoms, there was a fictional female general named Zhao Wei. She was set as Zhao Yun's younger sister. It seems that there's also a Zhao Wei in the Three Kingdoms. I just don't know if she's lost or dead. Speaking of which, to a certain extent, Zhao Yun treats you as his younger sister. Bai Xiaowen said with a smile. He especially shook your hand just now. There should be some deeper meaning behind it, right? Li Shiyi raised his right hand and said, when Zhao Yun shook my hand just now, he left a mark on me. Zhao Yun's mark. This is the unique mark of Lord Class General Zhao Yun. Once activated, you can temporarily use part of Zhao Yun's strength and combat skills, limited by your attributes. Lasts for 30 seconds and disappears after use. This is a one-time buff. It's similar to being possessed by a god, Bai Xiaowen said. Zhao Yun is very generous. He's afraid that we'll die when we attack Lenin, so he gave you this trump card to save your life. Li Shiyi sighed. Zhao Yun is a perfect brother. It would be great if I had a brother like him in the real world. Unfortunately, we're not from the same world. It was obvious that Li Shiyi respected and admired Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun's hidden charm attribute was probably maxed out. It might be hard to have a brother like Zhao Yun. Bai Xiaowen smiled. Don't think too much. Find Zhang Chun and get the army ready to depart as soon as possible. We have to take a shortcut and travel day and night. We have to destroy Lenin before the main forces of the Yellow Turban Army head north. Lenin Ferry. Behind the mountain ridge, a small group of people was lying in wait. General Bai, I just investigated. There are probably more than 1,000 yellow scarf bandits at Luan Ferry, and each of them has the support of the bandit doctor's demonic arts. With just our 300 soldiers, it will be very difficult to deal with them, Zhang Chun said in a low voice. Zhang Chun suffered a great loss when they attacked the southeast vice camp. He was still afraid of the Yellow Turban Army's fanatic water and fire demons' prayer buffs. Bai Xiaowen nodded. We're going to use the decapitation strategy anyway. We're going to pick the elite soldiers. We'll form the arrow formation and attack the Yellow Turban Army's altar. As long as we kill the Great Doctor, the bandits will collapse. To be honest, Bai Xiaowen's heart skipped a beat when he saw the Yellow Turban Army's buffs. He quickly realized that the biggest problem of this S-rank mission was the enemy's Great Doctor. A level 3 leader was only a deputy medic. What about the Great Doctor? He would have to be at least a level 5 leader. If there was only a level 5 leader, there would be nothing to be afraid of. However, the Great Doctor of the Yellow Turban Army had a prominent position. He would definitely have a group of elite guards and 1 or 2 level 3 leaders as his adjutants. It wouldn't be that easy to launch a surprise attack. If the decapitation strategy failed, the 1,000 or so Yellow Turban Army soldiers would easily drown Bai Xiaowen's group. Chapter 105. Late at night. On the east side of Luan Ferry, 2 Yellow Turban Army guards on night duty were killed. Then, Bai Xiaowen and Zhang Chun led 300 elite soldiers to a spot 100 meters away from the Yellow Turban Army's camp. Fire! Zhang Chun gave the order in a low voice. The sound of arrows piercing through the air could be heard. 200 archers from Liu Bei's army ignited their fire arrows and shot them out. Charge! Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi blended in with Zhang Chun's 100 elite sword and shield soldiers and charged straight into the Yellow Turban Army's camp. The 100 sword and shield soldiers were divided into 10 teams. Each team was led by an elite corporal. The elite corporals all had a single target control skill, berate. Bai Xiaowen's mental power spread out and connected with the 10 corporals. Even if they were 100 meters away, they could still hear each other. With the 10 corporals as the base, Bai Xiaowen had full control over the 100 elite soldiers. The 10 corporals were not knowledgeable. They thought that Bai Xiaowen's mental power connection was a special technique from Nanjiang. This saved Bai Xiaowen the trouble of explaining. The 100 soldiers formed the arrow formation. With the Wolf King and Wrath Claw as the vanguard, they stepped into the Yellow Turban Army's camp. Bai Xiaowen commanded Liu Bei's army to continuously fire oil along the way. With the help of the fire arrows, the Yellow Turban Army's camp was quickly set ablaze. The Yellow Turban Army soldiers did not have time to regroup. They only relied on the power of the talisman water to blindly charge at the enemy. Instead, they blocked the real elites of the Yellow Turban Army. The captains and sergeants of the Yellow Turban Army cursed angrily, but it had little effect. When they reached about 100 steps, the speed of their charge slowed down. The Yellow Turban Army soldiers who had been left behind rushed forward one after another. It looked like they were about to encircle the 100 people in the middle. Bai Xiaowen took out a token and chose to use it with a flash of white light. Suddenly, a huge wooden giant appeared at the back of the 100-man team. It threw out an earthquake skill, causing the surrounding Yellow Turban Army soldiers to fall into a group debuff. This wooden golem had a shameless skill that could slow down enemies in a large area. Its HP was also shockingly high. It could be said to be an excellent meat shield. Moreover, the wooden golem was also Bai Xiaowen's summon creature. It could enjoy the bonuses of Bai Xiaowen's class skills. Although its attack power was not high, Bai Xiaowen did not need it to deal damage. All he needed to do was to stand his ground and slow down the enemies. With a 20% higher vitality attribute, it turned into a moving giant shield. While delaying the enemies, it could also reduce the casualties of the 100-man team. Tisk. Ignorant fool, how dare you steal the Tao of Peace? An old Taoist stepped forward and shouted angrily. He raised his hand and threw out the sword in his hand. With the boost of his demon power, the sword turned into a ray of light and hit the wooden golem. After the wooden golem was hit by the sword, it let out an ear-piercing creaking sound. Its originally slow movements directly froze. It was obvious that the Yellow Turban Army's demon master was very experienced in dealing with the wooden golem. Bai Xiaowen snorted. I've been waiting for you. Under the command of his spiritual power, Sergeant Liu Bei of the first team immediately used Berate on the old Taoist. The old Taoist's body froze, and his subsequent attacks were interrupted. Because the priority was too low, Sergeant Liu Bei's Berate only lasted for 1 second. However, just as the fear effect of the old Taoist ended, Sergeant Liu Bei of the second team used Berate again. It was a seamless combo. Leave this demon master to me. General Zhang, continue to charge. Hurry up and charge to the altar where the highly skilled doctor is. Bai Xiaowen shouted in a low voice. Zhang Chun agreed. He thought that Bai Xiaowen was going to do things his own way and attack the hard bone. However, in reality, Bai Xiaowen was only worried that if the boss monster was attacked by Liu Bei's soldiers, the value of the spoils would decrease. For Bai Xiaowen, he was best at fighting mages with low strength. While the old Taoist was under the effect of fear, the 4 skeletal shield bearers quickly rushed in front of him and surrounded him with tacit understanding. Then, there was no then. Li Shi had stacked his talent, battle zeal, in his class skill, wind thunder combo, 10 times. His attacks were as swift as the wind. The ceremonial rapier stabbed the old Taoist repeatedly, causing blood to splatter on his body. This was the first time Bai Xiaowen saw Li Shi attack after his class advancement. He was very strong, like a windmill that had been set into motion. His attacks were endless. Although Li Shi only had 10 points of dexterity, his attack speed was more than 15 points of dexterity thanks to the 2 bonus effects. Once a critical hit was triggered, the old Taoist would be pierced through, causing him to roar in pain. The old Taoist wanted to fight back, but he was surrounded by 4 skeleton swordsmen who had the shield bash skill. He could not even use his skill and was beaten to death. After the old Taoist died, he left behind a silver treasure chest. Bai Xiaowen chose to temporarily store the treasure chest in his inventory. If a treasure chest was dropped, he could temporarily not open it. If he stored it in his inventory, it would not disappear. However, those who were qualified to open the treasure chests and obtain the spoils of war were ultimately those who contributed to the battle. Therefore, the operation of bringing the treasure chest back and letting others open the treasure chest and obtain the bound items inside did not exist. The growth rate of the Black Soul Stone increased, and the infusion of the Book of Incantations reached 100%. Notification, Side Mission Step 2, Infusion completed. Detected a purer infusion of demonic power. You can choose to compress your demonic power and continue to inject it, or you can choose to complete the mission directly. Bai Xiaowen and the 100-man team inquired at the same time, will I obtain a skill immediately after using the Book of Incantations? Notification, the Book of Incantations is a tool for learning skills. The user needs to comprehend it for a period of time before there is a chance of obtaining a skill. This depends on the user's mental aptitude. Bai Xiaowen understood and chose to compress his demonic power. After compressing it, the Book of Incantations' demonic power had reached 60%, which was twice as pure. The side mission Step 2, Infusion, which had indicated that it had been completed, was now incomplete. According to Bai Xiaowen's judgment, the purer the infusion of demonic power, the higher the completion rate of the side mission Step 2. Since he could not immediately obtain a skill to increase his combat strength, he might as well compress his demonic power and increase the completion rate. After all, he still had to kill the Yellow Turban Army doctor and clean up Luan Ferry, so he did not have to worry about a lack of demonic power. The paralyzed wooden puppet collapsed under the siege of the fanatical Yellow Turban Army soldiers. Without hesitation, Bai Xiaowen used the wooden puppet token again. The cooldown of this item was 30 seconds, and used up the remaining uses. Chapter 106. The Yellow Turban Army doctor was also riding on a yellow ox. When he saw that Bai Xiaowen's group did not have any banners, he immediately shouted, "Where did this ignorant brute come from? How dare you trespass into the Heavenly Army camp? Let's go! Don't waste your breath on him." The other party was obviously trying to stall for time to surround them. Bai Xiaowen did not fall for it. He waved his hand, and 10 corporals led the 100-man team forward. Their targets were the elite sword-shield soldiers of the Yellow Turban Army. "General Zhang Chun, leave the highly skilled doctor to me. You go and stop those elite guards. Don't let them get in the way." Bai Xiaowen added, "When we go back and report to the Lord, you'll get the first credit." Zhang Chun agreed excitedly. He rushed forward and killed 2 sword-shield soldiers with his long saber. The elite sword-shield soldiers of the Yellow Turban Army raised their shields and protected the doctor. Right at this moment, with Bai Xiaowen as the center, an awe-inspiring pressure spread out in a large circle of over 20 meters. The 2-star mutated skill, Deterrence, was activated. The weak-willed normal soldiers of the Yellow Turban Army fell to the ground. Even the elite sword-shield soldiers fell into a state of fear for 3 to 4 seconds, unable to move. Taking advantage of this gap, the Wolf King Wrathclaw leaped up and knocked away an elite sword-shield soldier. It opened its mouth and bit the doctor. Pop! There was a soft sound, like a balloon being popped. There was no blood. The Yellow Turban Army's great doctor's body was covered by a faint layer of mental energy shield. Clear Mind Incantation. The great doctor of the Yellow Turban Army shouted. Rays of green light shone down on the elite sword-shield soldiers like rain, freeing them from their fear state. Then, the doctor waved his hand, and a tall bronze man appeared on the battlefield. Its huge fist suddenly shook the ground. Following the strong tremors, the shadow assassin hiding behind the doctor appeared pathetically. Her invisibility was broken. Ignorant demon, feel the power of the yellow sky. Lightning flashed on the doctor's fingertip, and a bolt of lightning struck down. At this moment, the shadow assassin crouched down, and a skeleton soldier with a sword and shield pounced forward to help her block the lightning. The skeletal shield wielder's HP dropped to 80 points. Fortunately, after strengthening, it had gained an additional 20 HP, otherwise, this attack would have turned it into a pile of bones. It could be imagined that if that lightning bolt struck the shadow assassin, it would suffer an additional 50% spell damage and would be instantly killed. If it were any other ordinary summoner, they wouldn't be able to protect the shadow assassin. Only spiritual mentors who had a mental connection could give more detailed orders to their summoned creatures. only then would they be able to cooperate so well. The other 3 skeletal shield bearers had already rushed over, and one of them used shield bash. However, the spiritual power shield on the doctor's body flickered, and he was not affected by the shield bash at all. His body was as steady as Mount Tai, and his fingertips once again flickered with tiny sparks of lightning. This highly skilled doctor is so strong. I'm afraid his spirit is close to 50 points. Bai Xiaowen sucked in a cold breath. Guan Yu had killed highly skilled doctors in the southeast subcamp with a single strike. It was easy to create the false impression that highly skilled doctors were only SOSO. Bai Xiaowen only felt the heavy pressure when he faced the Yellow Turban Army's highly skilled doctor. This highly skilled doctor's lightning bolts were terrifying, and he had a spiritual power shield as well as a wide-range skill to remove crowd control. If a normal level 2 Awaken were to do this mission, it would be no different from asking for death. It would be a suicide mission. Fortunately, Zhang Chun was excited by the reward. He led the elite soldiers to separate and surround the elite skeletal shield bearers and drove them out of the battlefield to make room for Bai Xiaowen's summoned creatures. Attack with all your might. Break his spiritual power shield first. Bai Xiaowen shouted. He aimed his Desert Eagle at the highly skilled doctor and fired repeatedly. A few skeletal shield bearers stood in position and helped the Wolf King Wrath Claw surround the highly skilled doctor. They swung their iron swords and slashed fiercely. Li Shi's 2 buffs lasted for 30 seconds. Before the buffs disappeared, he quickly entered the battlefield and stabbed the highly skilled doctor from behind. The spiritual power shield rippled with specks of light, but it kept weakening. With a loud boom, a chain of lightning exploded between the summoned creatures that were attacking him. Lightning jump. Every skeleton sword shielded skeleton received over 30 magic damage, and the skeleton sword shielded 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 skeleton directly shattered into pieces. The Shadow Assassin was the primary target. He took 60 points of magic damage and lost more than half of his HP. Fortunately, the chain of lightning only jumped 5 times. Otherwise, even Li Shi would have taken damage. Her small body, which only had 7 points of constitution, couldn't even withstand 2 chain lightning bolts. Fortunately, Bai Xiaowen paid attention to positioning. Every time the highly skilled doctor turned around, the summoned creatures would move in coordination with Li Shi, allowing her to stay behind the highly skilled doctor. As for the Bronze Man, he left it to the Shadow Assassin. The Bronze Man's damage was much higher than the Wood Man's, but it mainly dealt physical damage and moved slowly. The Shadow Assassin had high evasion and a racial passive that reduced physical damage by 50%. He could hold on for a while. The Yellow Turban Army soldiers kept coming from all over the camp. However, Zhang Chunjun had already killed all the elite skeletal shield bearers and freed up some men to block them. On one side were Liu Bei's carefully selected soldiers. On the other side were the Yellow Turban Army soldiers who were buffed by Talisman Water and preyed by the Fire Demon. Neither side retreated. Seeing that Zhang Chunjun was about to lose, Bai Xiaowen took a deep breath and ordered the Wrath Claw to use Howl. Zhang Chunjun's strength was temporarily boosted, so they didn't have to worry about him for 30 seconds. On the other hand, Bai Xiaowen's side finally wore down the spirit shield around the Great Medic. The Great Medic charged up chain lightning again. The 3 skeletal shield bearers' HP were already at rock bottom. How could they survive another AoE attack? Clang! One of the skeletal shield bearers used shield bash. Enemy strength ratio, 15-11. The success rate of shield bash has decreased. Judgment failed. Bai Xiaowen cursed in his mind. A magician's strength had reached 15. It could only be said that the Great Medic's level was too high. Even his secondary attributes had increased to a shocking level. Bai Xiaowen could only use Deterrence, which had just come off cooldown, to interrupt the Great Medic's chain lightning. Bai Xiaowen activated Rapid Fire and fired like crazy, but it also consumed a lot of spirit. Fortunately, the Warlock's robe recovered 1 spirit every minute. Coupled with Bai Xiaowen's own spirit recovery, he could still hold on. This time, the great medic was frightened for 3 seconds. He couldn't get rid of the fear status. Bai Xiaowen's eyes lit up. It seemed that the great medic had no way of dealing with crowd control skills. Chapter 107. Bai Xiaowen and his group attacked the Yellow Turban Army's doctor madly during the 3.5 seconds of the suppression skill. The Wrath Claw's 5 claw attacks had 5 stacks of bleeding. Combined together, it was a severe bleeding. Bai Xiaowen expended what little mental power he had left. He activated rapid fire and fired a series of scorching bullets. Li Shi's 2 buffs never stopped. While the Yellow Turban Army doctor couldn't move, she aimed at the doctor's throat, glabella, and other vital points. She stabbed again and again. Every attack was a vital attack that ignored defense. There were also 3 skeleton sword-wielding shield-bearers. They swung their iron swords tirelessly. The Yellow Turban Army Great Doctor's HP fell to the bottom. "You ignorant fools, go to hell." After the 3.5 seconds of suppression ended, the doctor rolled and struggled to get up. He looked up at the sky and sighed. The world of the yellow sky. It's a pity that I, Zhu Ji, will never see it again. Boom! A blinding flash of lightning shot out from the doctor's body. Oh no! Bai Xiaowen was shocked. He felt a violent mental power fluctuation from the doctor's body. He rushed forward and pounced on Li Shi, pinning him under his body. Then, he felt a weight on his back. The Wrath Claw's sturdy body was lying on Bai Xiaowen's back. The lightning turned into a ring of lightning and spread out. The violent lightning energy swept through the remaining 3 skeletal sword shield bearers as if they were harvesting wheat. The shadow assassin also disappeared without a sound. Fortunately, the lightning ring only spread out 7 to 8 meters before it ran out of energy and disappeared. Bai Xiaowen's HP fell by more than 40 points, while the Wrath Claw's HP fell by almost 100 points. Li Shi was pinned under the doctor's body, so he was not affected by the lightning. He lost less than 10 points of HP. Is this self-destruction? What a powerful move. Bai Xiaowen could not use his insight skill, and his mental power was far inferior to his opponent's. He could not get first-hand information about the battle and could only guess. Then, a notification came from the spiritual realm. The Yellow Turban Army's doctor, Zhu Ji, lost 9 points of HP. The Yellow Turban Army's doctor, Zhu Ji, lost 12 points of HP. Zhu Ji died. Then, a series of notifications came, indicating that Liu Bei's reputation with the Yellow Turban Army had changed. Bai Xiaowen let out a long breath. He patted the Wrath Claw off his body and struggled to get up. He first gave himself an Angry Claw bottle of advanced HP potion, then hurriedly treated Angry Claw's wounds. Li Shi also got up and rushed over to help. The Wrath Claw's hut he had a bone was Liu Xiaowen's was a healer's was Liu Bei. Bai Xiaowen was so distressed that he didn't know what to do. Li Shi quickly took out a bandage and wrapped it around Angry Claw. After using 7 or 8 rolls of bandages, Li Shi wrapped Angry Claw from its stomach to its back and tied it securely. The Yellow Turban Army's morale had plummeted due to Zhu Ji's death. Their buffs had also disappeared. Zhang Chun and the others had been having a hard time dealing with the Yellow Turban Army. Bai Xiaowen patted the Wrath Claw's head, feeling guilty. He had ordered the Wrath Claw to protect him and Li Shi through their mental connection. Otherwise, with the Wrath Claw's agility, it could have escaped the range of the lightning ring before it spread. However, this was the wisest choice. The Wrath Claw could be revived. At most, they would have to pay a price. If Bai Xiaowen died, his summoned creatures would die along with the Wrath Claw. There was no way they could be revived. The Wrath Claw gradually regained some of its spirit with the help of the HP potion. It rubbed its furry head against Bai Xiaowen, looking very affectionate. Bai Xiaowen relaxed a little. He walked over to Zhu Ji's corpse. This guy is really hard to deal with. One of them was a level 2 hero, while the other was a level 1 rare elite. It was already so difficult for them to complete this S-rank mission. If it were an ordinary awaken, they would probably be tortured to the point that even their grandma would not recognize them. Notification, Side Mission 2, Infusion completed. You may submit the mission at any time. Black Soul Stone's growth rate, current soul essence, 42 points. After Zhu Ji's death, he left behind a gorgeous golden treasure chest. It was much more impressive than the small golden treasure chest of the low-level Taoist leader. Bai Xiaowen stored the treasure chest in his inventory. Then, he joined Li Shi in the battle to clean up the mess. Zhang Chun had lost a third of his 100 elite soldiers. 4 of his 10 elite squad leaders were dead. Bai Xiaowen joined in. His spiritual power connected to the communication channel and took over the command. Zhang Chun heaved a sigh of relief. His commanding ability wasn't high. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost so many soldiers. Under Bai Xiaowen's command, the remaining dozens of Liu Bei's elite soldiers clenched their fists. With 3 relatively healthy squad leaders as the vanguard, they smashed their fists into the Yellow Turban army. Li Shi followed up and focused on attacking the elite swordsmen and school swordsmen. She focused on attacking. Her attacks were like the wind and dealt high damage. As for defense, there were 2 shield-wielding soldiers on each side. There was no need to worry. With Bai Xiaowen's Desert Eagle, the elite soldiers were killed one by one. The Yellow Turban army was already a mess. As their elites were killed, they began to show signs of defeat. Bai Xiaowen gave the order to blow the horn. The 200 Liu Bei's archers who were shooting arrows outside the camp put away their bows and took out their melee weapons. They formed up and marched forward. The refugees gathered by the Yellow Turban army were the first to flee, followed by the disciples. In the end, even the ordinary soldiers ignored their superiors' orders and fled for their lives. When the morale of the Yellow Turban army at the port collapsed, Bai Xiaowen ordered Zhang Chun to lead the soldiers to burn the warships and destroy the facilities at the port. He and Li Shi could finally sit down and take stock of their spoils of war. There were a total of 5 treasure chests. 3 of them were elite treasure chests, silver, and 2 were leader treasure chests, gold. In fact, the 2 of them had killed more than 3 elites. However, most of them had been attacked by Liu Bei's soldiers. This had caused the drop rate of the treasure chests to decrease. There was nothing they could do about it. Bai Xiaowen opened the treasure chests according to the order of the chests. Li Shi was in charge of choosing the cards. The 3 elite treasure chests all had a rank D combat rating. Li Shi opened the card for the first time. It was blank. The second time, it was still blank. It was frustrating to encounter a 1/3 chance of getting a free pass. I don't think my luck is good today. Why don't you open it? Li Shi asked. Sure. Bai Xiaowen's hands were itching. He opened the 3rd elite treasure chest and randomly chose a silver card. Whoosh! The other 11 cards turned into psionic particles and dissipated. The selected card flipped over. Li Shi's beautiful eyes widened. Chapter 108. You have obtained a skill book, Combo Slash. Combo Slash. Perform 2 slashes in a row, each dealing 80% of actual damage. 1-star skill. Bai Xiaowen laughed and distributed the skill book to Li Shi. Looks like you were lucky to get the 3rd treasure chest. Combo Slash was only a 1-star skill, but it was a damage type skill, not a control type skill. Therefore, it did not have a high priority. Most importantly, Combo Slash had 2 stages of damage priority, which could help Li Shi stack Tempest Combo and Battle Zeal. After Li Shi learned Combo Slash, the 2 of them continued to open the treasure chests. The small golden treasure chest that they had killed on the way to the camp had a C-rank combat rating and only 1 draw chance. Bai Xiaowen was unlucky this time. He did not get any gold equipment, only an elite blue ring with +2 spirit attribute. The low-level leader's level was about the same as Bai Xiaowen's. With Li Shi's help, his combat rating was only C rank. Fortunately, the psionic points obtained from the kill were not reduced. After putting on the ring, Bai Xiaowen's spirit attribute increased to 25 points. Finally, it was time for the highlight, the golden treasure chest dropped by the Yellow Turban Army's doctor, Zhu Ji. Bai Xiaowen pressed his hand on the golden treasure chest and a notification popped up. Enemy strength is 3. 144, 1. Combat rating, S. You have obtained 5 draws, and you will not get a walkover. In the team mode, Li Shui also saw the notification and couldn't help but grin. There were a total of 5 draws, which was definitely a great harvest. I'll go first. I have a feeling that a dark gold equipment is beckoning to me. Bai Xiaowen rubbed his hands and clicked on 2 gold cards. You have obtained a B rank item, bronze token. Using the bronze token will summon a bronze man with skills such as Quake, Smash, and Bronze Skin. Number of uses available, 2 halves. You have obtained an equipment enhancement card, 4 stars. Bai Xiaowen's mouth twitched. Shui, why don't you do it? Li Shui smiled. The 4-star equipment enhancement card is pretty good. The higher the grade of the equipment enhancement card, the higher the success rate of the enhancement. This 4-star enhancement card is almost as valuable as a piece of gold equipment. With that said, Li Shui pointed at one of the gold cards. A golden light shone. On the front of the card was a picture of a jade pendant. You've obtained an item, Fiendish Fire Jade Pendant. Demonic Fire Jade Pendant, Rarity, Boss, Gold, Equipment Position, Accessory, Prerequisite, None, Element, None, Additional Skill, Devilish Flame Dance. Within 30 seconds after activation, each melee attack of the wearer will deal additional fire damage equal to the wearer's level *3. Cooldown, 2 hours. Durability description: this crimson jade pendant contains a violent fiery demonic power. Gold equipment, and it's a rare accessory? Bai Xiaowen looked at the jubilant Li Shui and quietly put away the 4-star enhancement card and bronze token that he had just drawn. Accessories were rarer than clothes. A good accessory could increase an awaken's instantaneous explosive power by 1 level. One could imagine how valuable it was. Although this accessory did not add any attributes, it came with a powerful skill. The higher the level of the wearer and the faster the melee attack speed, the greater the benefit. Bai Xiaowen assigned it to Li Shui, greatly enhancing her instantaneous explosive power. Li Shui was very happy. She used up the remaining 2 draws in one go. You've obtained an A-grade item, Fire Demon's Prayer Scroll. After activation, it will add the Fire Demon's Prayer status to nearby allies. Each attack will deal an additional 1 to 3 fire damage, ignores defense. Lasts for 60 minutes. The casting range is determined by the wearer's spirit attribute. The basic radius is 100 meters. You've obtained an A-grade item, Deceit Talisman. After activation, the target enemy will treat your team as an ally and will not take the initiative to attack. The maximum duration is 120 seconds. The higher the target's level and spirit attribute, the shorter the duration of the Deceit Talisman. These 2 A-grade items each had their own unique uses. The Fire Demon's Prayer Scroll was a powerful weapon in large-scale battles, while the Deceit Talisman was very useful when facing some difficult opponents. Although Li Shui did not have the luck to draw a dark gold equipment, the value of the 3 spoils of war that she had drawn was above average. The Fire Demon's Jade Pendant was a top-notch gold equipment. Her strength had earned her the title of Lucky Hand. In addition to these 5 spoils of war, Bai Xiaowen also obtained a special item that was guaranteed to drop, Zhu Ji's head. It could be exchanged for rewards in the enemy camp of the Yellow Turban Army. Although this S-grade mission was difficult and dangerous, the reward of the psionic points was also very generous. The highly skilled doctor alone had given her 5,000 psionic points. The total psionic points in her account were close to 8,000. Including her previous savings, the total psionic points exceeded 10,000. Even a high-leveled awakened with a standard profession might not have such wealth. The Black Soul Stone had absorbed another batch of elite souls, and its growth had increased to 68 soul essence. However, there were only 2 layers of enhancement options that had been unlocked at the moment. The last enhancement option that allowed the skeleton soldiers to evolve into skeleton archers was too much of a scam. Bai Xiaowen would not consider it for the time being. He would just store the soul essence for later use. After opening the treasure chests, Zhang Chun had led the soldiers to burn all the ships in Luan Ferry. Bai Xiaowen also received the S-grade mission, Raid Luan. Before the Yellow Turban Army's main force returned, Bai Xiaowen and Zhang Chun led their troops out of Luan Ferry and returned to Su Province. At the foot of Shuzhou City, the triumphant army was given the cold shoulder. The Su Province's deputy general who was guarding the gate said that it was already late. He was afraid that there might be spies among the young men, so he refused to open the gate. Fortunately, Mi Zhu arrived and reprimanded the deputy general before opening the gate to welcome them. Bai Xiaowen looked at the deputy general and whispered, "Lord Mi, it seems that Provincial Governor Tao has already noticed something and is targeting the Lord. Is he trying to force our army to leave?" Mi Zhu said disdainfully, "The bones in the grave only know how to play dirty tricks. How can they compare to Lord Xuanda?" 2 days after General Bai attacked Luan, General Guan and General Zhang attacked the Yellow Turban Army's camp at Jiuli Mountain and killed their commander, Zhang Kai. Bai Xiaowen sighed inwardly at Liu Bei's scheming. To think that he would be able to do both at the same time. Even if Bai Xiaowen's attack on Luan failed, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei would still kill the Yellow Turban Army's chief. Without a unified commander, it was impossible for the entire army to cross the river to the north. Only a small portion of the Yellow Turban Army would cross the river under the leadership of an individual leader. Most of the Yellow Turban Army would scatter and flee to the countryside of Su Province to cause chaos. At this time, Liu Bei would be able to free up his hands and slowly win over the hearts of the people. Moreover, killing the chief of the Yellow Turban Army was different from attacking Luan. It was a huge merit and no one would be able to find fault with it. Mi Zhu continued, "General Bai attacked Luan at such a young age. He is truly a hero and his future achievements will not be below Guan and Zhang's. The Yellow Turban Army has lost their chance to cross the river. If they stay in Su Province, they will only cause chaos. I have already contacted the other families that support Lord Xuanda and plan to write a letter to invite Lord Xuanda to stay in Xiaopei and form a barrier for Su Province. Notification, Side Mission 2, Attack Luan, Difficulty, S, completed. Progress, excellent. You have received 2 remnant pages of the Book of Duplication. You have received 50 refined gold ingots. Tao Qianjuan's high-ranking official, Mi Zhu's favorability towards you has greatly increased. Current favorability level, good. Please go to Liu Bei's place to receive the other rewards for this mission." Bai Xiaowen sighed. After bidding farewell to Mi Zhu, he went to Liu Bei's camp with Zhang Chun. On the way, he put the 3 remnant pages of the Book of Duplication together. A light flashed that only hunters could see. You have lost 3 remnant pages of the Book of Duplication. Chapter 109. Book of Duplication, A+ grade item. Can duplicate other items, grade A or below, and turn them into the same item. Disappears after use. I finally got the complete version of the Book of Duplication. My hard work wasn't in vain. Bai Xiaowen was very happy. When he saw the remnant page of the Book of Duplication, he already had a target in mind. It was the Book of Curses. Looking at all the grade A items in Bai Xiaowen's possession, the Book of Curses was undoubtedly the most valuable of them all. However, the Book of Curses was in grade A item, so it required the complete version of the Book of Duplication to copy. When he arrived at Liu Bei's camp, he found out that Liu Bei had already gone to the provincial governor's mansion for a banquet with Guan Zhang and Zhao Yun. Bai Xiaowen knew that today was the day that Tao Qian would cede Su Province to Liu Bei for the second time. Liu Bei couldn't force Tao Qian to abdicate at this time. It would damage his reputation. Mi Zhu and the others also saw this point. As such, they secretly wrote a letter to ask Liu Bei to set up camp in Xiaopei. In the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Liu Bei had only reluctantly accepted Tao Qian's death when he ceded Su province to Liu Bei for the third time. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi rested temporarily at Liu Bei's post house while waiting for Liu Bei's return. "Let's think of an excuse and prepare to go back," Bai Xiaowen said in a low voice after making sure no one was around. Li Shi was puzzled. "We still have some time to stay here. Why should we leave? Isn't it better to unearth some more side missions? There won't be any more lucrative missions like the raid on Hunan." Bai Xiaowen shook his head. "The Yellow Turban Army has fled to Su province. Liu Bei's strategic goal has been achieved. Next, he'll have to raise the bandits to protect himself. He can't actively suppress the bandits. If the Lord is not proactive, we won't have much of a chance to act. Staying here, we'll just be doing our jobs every day. We are rootless duckweed in Su province. The longer we stay here, the easier it is for us to reveal our flaws. If by any chance someone discovers that we are not people from the Three Kingdoms plain, I am afraid it will cause trouble. It is better to leave as soon as possible." Li Shi nodded in agreement. During this time, Bai Xiaowen chose to complete the second step of the side mission, injection. He then received a notification that the mission completion rate was perfect. The appearance of the Book of Spells was very different from before. The pages of the book seemed to have been sprinkled with magnesium powder. When he touched it, there were luminous fragments scattered down. It was quite exquisite and unique. Bai Xiaowen then took out the grade A+ item Book of Duplication that he had obtained from Yizhu and chose to use it. The target was the Book of Curses. After a burst of dazzling light, the grade A+ Book of Duplication disappeared and was replaced by a second Book of Spells. Just like the first book, this copy of the Book of Spells was also sparkling, exquisite and beautiful. Bai Xiaowen picked up a Book of Spells and silently recited the words to use it. The pages of the book flipped open automatically. Rays of demonic light shot out and surged into Bai Xiaowen's mind, turning into mysterious and ancient characters of the Book of Spells. Bai Xiaowen's consciousness was instantly immersed in these characters. At first, a single character of the Book of Spells appeared. Every time a character of the Book of Spells appeared, a small stream of information would surge in, reminding Bai Xiaowen of the meaning of the character of the Book of Spells. Towards the end, the characters of the Book of Spells appeared faster and faster. In the end, 3 or 4 characters appeared consecutively within a second. Before the first character disappeared, the shadow of the second character had already appeared. This was like learning a foreign language at the last minute and memorizing the words. It tested one's memory. Bai Xiaowen could only force himself to memorize it. The last character disappeared, followed by the appearance of the entire Book of Spells. This time, there was no meaningful information stream. "No way? I just gave you a vocabulary, and now I have to do reading comprehension?" Bai Xiaowen was a little confused. He hurriedly searched his memory, trying to understand the Book of Spells by guessing and guessing. In the end, after stumbling, Bai Xiaowen finally understood the general meaning of the Book of Spells. This Book of Spells was called the Book of Bewitchment. Before Bai Xiaowen could catch his breath, the second Book of Puppets appeared. Bai Xiaowen sighed and continued reading comprehension of the second Book of Spells. The third Book of Spells was the Book of Confinement. The fourth Book of Spells was called the Book of Berserk. Each Book of Spells only appeared for about 3 minutes. Even with Bai Xiaowen's powerful brain, he could not fully decipher the meaning. He could only understand the general meaning. Soon, the 4 Book of Spells disappeared. When Bai Xiaowen opened his eyes again, he received a notification from the spiritual realm's rules. "You have passed the test of the 4 Book of Spells. Your progress is Book of Bewitchment, Book of Puppets, Book of Confinement, Book of Berserk. Your overall progress is excellent. You can choose any one of the following 4 Book of Spells: Bewitchment Spell, Book of Puppets, Book of Confinement, Book of Berserk, as your combat skill." Bai Xiaowen took a deep breath slowly. He had no choice. He closed his eyes and his super brain worked crazily. He recalled the book of spells and their information flow from his memory. He pondered over them one by one and compared them with the 4 book of spells. There were 4 book of spells in total. They corresponded to the 4 skills. The user had to achieve a 50% understanding of one of the book of spells before they could choose to learn the skill. It was already very impressive that Bai Xiaowen could choose any one of the 4 skills on his first try. The difficulty was probably the same as a layman who had never learned English and had only read an English-Chinese dictionary for half an hour trying to do 4 book of reading comprehension and get a passing score for all of them. However, Bai Xiaowen was still not satisfied. He had a crazy idea in his mind. My current progress is excellent. What would happen if I could reach perfect? I still have a copy of the book of spells. I still have one more chance to try. Bai Xiaowen's advantage was his superb memory. He even had the ability to copy the book of spells, and their information flow explanations that flashed through his mind were deeply engraved in his mind. He squinted his eyes and sat on the chair. His mind was flipping through the pages like a book. He slowly completed the explanations of the 4 book of spells based on his memory. Now, Bai Xiaowen was like holding an English-Chinese dictionary. He was flipping through the book while doing reading comprehension at the same time. Soon, Bai Xiaowen finished all 4 book of spells. He checked with himself. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he opened the 2nd book of spells and took the test again. This time, the test ended very quickly. A notification came from the spiritual realm rule. You passed the test of the 4 book of spells. The progress is: Bewitchment spell 100%, Book of Puppets 100%, Book of Confinement 100%, Book of Berserk 100%. The overall progress of your test is perfect. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.